compilation of all of the flights I made in Honduras and Central America during what was called the Iran-Contra conflict. Now, we were flying for the CIA and, by the direction of Ollie North, drugs. We were delivering those to Barry Seal and other pilots who in turn were passing those drugs to various parts of the world. All documented. It's amazing what you will find in the Tatum Chronicles. Available now. Just go to VTN Radio, click on the bookstore, false flag operation provided by the United States military and the CIA in Cambodia. Again, vtnradio.com, click on the bookstore. You'll find '97. An interview I did with the ex-head of the FBI office in Los Angeles, Ted Gunderson. We talked about things that really do apply today. Of all of the flights I made in Honduras and Central America during what was called the Iran-Contra conflict. Now, we were flying for the CIA and, by the direction of Ollie North, drugs. We were delivering those to Barry Seal and other pilots who in turn were passing those drugs to various parts of the world. All documented. It's amazing what you will find in the Tatum Chronicles. Available now. Just go to VTN Radio, click on the bookstore, and you'll find it. That's vtnradio.com. VTN
And now, here's Ted.
And good day to all you beautiful people across this great land of ours, our friends up north, Canada, friends down south, Mexico, Central South America, Africa, Asia, and Europe. Welcome to the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. We just finished a 1-hour simulating show with our guest, who is Chip Tatum, 25 years, CIA deep cover agent. We have a series of 6 shows we've already done. We're on the second set of shows, 6 shows again. The previous sets are available. Audio's $49.95. I urge you to obtain a set of those previous shows, and we will be selling the 6 shows that we're doing now for another $49.95. Also, a transcript of the first show is available for $29.95. You'll want to obtain a transcript, so for either one of these, call 800-205-6245. It's critical, folks, that you get these tapes, get the transcript, make copies, get them out to your friends. We've got to absolutely have to get the word out as to what's going on, not only in America, but around the world. Okay, we just finished a show I consider the #1 show with Chip, and you know what Chip has furnished us in the past. We discussed the Bilderbergers. We discussed how this group of, let's face it, Chip, you guys were terrorists, met within 2 weeks after the Bilderberger meeting, and I'd like to make that information available very briefly to this second audience, because this our show today, right now, the second hour, goes shortwave around the world. Chip, are you there?
I'm here, Ted.
Yeah. Would you give us a real quick overview of the meetings that you had, not the detail that we had on the first hour, but the meetings that you had within 2 weeks after the Bilderbergers met?
Sure. Normally the OSGs would, which OSG is Operational Subgroup, would meet within 2 weeks after these international financial meetings.
That's via the
topics. I'm sorry?
You meet 2 weeks after the Bilderbergers met.
That's correct. Topics of discussion were basically alignment of countries, alignment of neutralizations, and alignments of countries, financial interests within the countries, and politicians within the countries. We would line out our year's work, and if there was anything, we'd line out our communications codes and everything we'd need to proceed, excuse me, for the following year. And let me say that the main theme in these meetings, so that we understood exactly what was going on, was as we proceed to build and to align these countries with what is good for the world, not necessarily good for America, but our leader was the President of the United States, George Bush. We would align these, understanding that we were working along the lines of let me see how I can put it. He talked about a World Planning Commission, and I think the line of that is equivalent to, folks, if you have in your local area a planning commission and master zoning, where the plans are made for one particular area of your community is for commercial along one street, and farther back there's apartments, and then farther back is agricultural or residential zoning or industrial. This is a plan that was put forward for the world. One particular area of the world would be our food-producing area. One particular area would rich with certain minerals would provide those minerals. But the constant theme there was the fact that we were more or less zoning enforcement officers, seeing that everything was aligned and in place so that this could happen by a certain time, by their target date. And it was just around 2001 was the target date. If certain things hadn't happened by 1996, an accelerated mode had to come in. And I can talk about that in another time.
Why not talk about it now?
Well, I have some documents I need to pull out for that.
Okay, let's talk about it Monday then.
Okay. And on that zoning side and on everything they brought out in talking about a one world government, what was explained to us was the fact that for a one world government to succeed, there had to be a constant standard of living across the board. One country couldn't be poor, another country wealthy. There had to be a constant standard of living. That means some countries' standard of living will come down drastically to allow others to come up.
Well, we're talking about NAFTA and GATT now, I guess, huh?
That's what it looks like to me. You know, those weren't topics of our discussions. Those were discussions in, I guess, other meetings, because we were basically the zoning officers.
So you were the enforcement branch of the One World Order.
That's what we were.
And if somebody didn't comply with the various time schedules, or it was necessary to expedite it, or somebody was holding it up, you went out and
we'd ensure we had a man in the position under that person, and we'd take that person out.
And did they discuss the infiltration of the various political groups around the world, various governments around the world? In other words, the agents who were under the leaders, who were influencing the leaders?
You know, and that was done in earlier years, because let me explain to you some of the missions that I had. In the late 70s, I was sent to Yugoslavia to look at and gather information considering Tito and his successors, because Tito was very ill, and we wanted to know who was poised to come in that position. So I imagine if I was doing that, there were other agents around the world doing the same thing with countries, so that they understand who is poised to come in, what their political stand is, whether they're players or whether they're going to be adverse to what's going on.
And how do you feel about the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats?
I don't think the Republicans and Democrats have the interest of the United States and the people of the United States in mind. I honestly don't.
You're talking about the leaders, of course.
That's correct. I feel that the leaders today are very self-serving.
Don't you feel they've been infiltrated, though?
Oh, yeah.
And that this New World Order has reached up into these both of these parties and taken over?
At the highest level of government.
Absolutely. Okay, be right back. It's time for a quick break. Wake up, America! Wake up! And we're back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. We have a caller from Colorado. John, are you there?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Is it John? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Where are you from in Colorado?
I'm from Denver.
Denver, okay. Nice, pretty city.
Oh, yeah. It's the UN capital now, the whole region now.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado, the state of Colorado is, too.
Oh, I think it is.
Have you ever heard my experience when I ran for president on the Democratic primary against Bill Clinton last year?
No.
Well, I contacted the various states to get my name on the ballot, and I was on the ballot in New Hampshire, Texas. Actually, I did fairly well, considering the fact that I didn't have any money. But I sent my registration fee to the state of Colorado, and I received a notice back that I would not be on the ballot, but that they could that gave them, the voters of Colorado, permission to write in my name on the ballot. And then I checked and followed up on it later, and the instructions to the precinct captains they were told to keep that paper with my name on it under the table and only bring it out when people asked for it. And by the way, I was not on the ballot. I was supposed to be on the ballot. That was the reason for sending the $500 registration fee in, and they kept my $500.
And you never got it refunded?
Never got it refunded. No. And I wasn't on the ballot. That was the understanding when I sent the $500 in. They double-crossed me. Go ahead, John.
I think there's a lot of voter corruption here.
Obviously.
Anyway, earlier in some of the programs, Chip, you talked about a drug. I can't think of the exact name, but I think in your article it talks about it being Burundanga.
Burundanga.
Okay. But I think you used another name for the drug, and
it's a derivative of scopolamine.
That's it. Could you discuss that drug? Because personally, I think that Tim McVeigh is under that drug. I mean, the guy looks hypnotic, in a hypnotic state to me. Is that possible, do you think?
Well, the good thing about scopolamine is there aren't any overt signs that a person's on a drug or drugged with it. In other words, you can take your target. You can induce your target with the Burodenga, and it's not exactly scopolamine. It's a different bush from the nightshade family is used for this particular drug. You can tell him to go to the bank, empty out his bank account, get it in cash, and bring it to you. He'll do that for you. The banker won't question that because he can't tell that he's drugged. He looks just as normal as you or I. However, he's under your complete control. And the good thing about it is when he comes out of it a few days later, he won't remember a thing. He'll go back to the bank to make a withdrawal, to go buy dinner for his girlfriend, and it'll be empty.
I wonder if Tim McVeigh is going to remember that he was even in trial. I really think he's under the influence of that drug.
I believe Mr. McVeigh knows where he is and knows why he's there. And I have my own reasons for saying that, and I don't want to get into it. But I have very strong feelings about that. I'm wondering why certain things weren't done in his defense in that trial.
Exactly.
Well, that's obvious.
Yeah.
Now, also in your article, it says you were ordered to neutralize a presidential political figure in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Can you discuss who that was and what that was about?
We were told the subgroup that there was a man running for office that was completely subversive to the United States and to the democratic process, that his party that he was forming was actually the target, but he needed to be blackmailed into leaving the race, and his name was Ross Perot.
That's very interesting. And then
and wait a minute, John, don't go. And Chip, you want to tell how he was neutralized?
I walked away. I didn't want to have anything to do with it because I'd stated earlier on several occasions that I did not participate, nor would I participate in any neutralizations of any American citizens or civilians. If it was an intelligence officer, military member was our target, government official was our target, foreign government official, and there was a finding that they were working as an agent or in providing information contrary to the United States needs, then I would not hesitate at neutralizing someone. But from what I understand, he was basically neutralized through the threat of blackmail with his daughter.
Well, that was all public too.
That's correct.
And remember that, John?
Yes. Uh-huh. I was going to mention.
Has anybody ever followed up and talked to Ross Perot about this Chip?
Mr. Perot received several letters from me, including one letter when he was running this time to beware of the man who wanted to take over his party.
Oh, I know who you're talking about now, from Colorado, right?
That's right.
And was there any response to those letters?
Not one, no. But they weren't letters that needed response. They were facts. He knows he knows that what I have to say is factual, and he doesn't have to answer.
Well, I know, but if somebody wrote me a letter like that, I'd be on the phone with them immediately.
Yeah. You know, the last time I talked to you gentlemen, I mentioned the Zapata Oil Company, that George Bush owned that particular oil company, and I wonder if you knew that the president, I know you probably know this, but the president of that company was John Hinckley.
And his son was the one that shot Reagan.
Correct. Do you think there's any connection there?
What do you think, Chip?
I don't know. It was my understanding, and still is, that the Zapata group of corporations is Houlihan's, and owns part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and is in control these days, anyhow.
These days.
Yeah, by the people. But I thought that they sold that back in the 70s.
But way back when that assassination was going on, I think Hinckley was in there.
Okay,
Talk about your invasion of Grenada, and I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, it's time for a quick break, folks. Be right back. At Gunderson Report. Wake up, America! And we're back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. We have a caller, Paul from Colorado. Before we go to Paul, I think John wanted us to discuss the Grenada invasion. We'll come back to that after Paul's call is taken. Paul, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
We're doing fine.
Alrighty, I was wondering, I've heard Chip make reference to Ross Perot twice on these programs, and I was just curious if he knows anything about this. A few months ago, a guy named Scott Barnes came out and made some reference to that he had made up a lot of those things about Ross Perot, and he said that he did them thinking they were going to help him, and he was apologizing.
Wait, Scott Barnes said that Chip made up these things?
No, that Scott Barnes had made them up. Evidently, what I got was that he was part of Ross Perot's campaign originally.
Oh, he said that Ross Perot made them up.
No, that
Scott Barnes said what?
Scott Barnes said that Scott Barnes made them up.
Oh, he said he made them up himself.
Yeah, and he was apologizing. He said that he had became a born-again Christian, and he wanted to apologize for it. And it just sounded like a lie to me. I was wondering if he knew anything about that.
Well, how does Scott Barnes fit into it? Was he Ross Perot's security people or what? How did he qualify?
I don't know. All I know about Scott Barnes is supposedly he was involved in this POW thing, and he was at one time a licensed private investigator.
He's out of California, by the way. Out of the Central California Valley, I believe, San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah.
You know Scott Barnes, Jeff?
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know of him. He wrote a book, Bend Over Here It Comes Again, something like that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Nice title.
Yeah, I think
anyway, I've talked to him on the phone. He's pretty good guy. I'm not sure exactly about this, Paul. I wish I could answer that for you. I don't know anything about it.
Okay, I had another question for Chip. I was just wondering, what's your opinion of how safe it is to actually talk about things on the telephone to our friends and other people?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I think it's absolutely safe as long as you monitor what you say. I've always been a proponent, but that's because of where I've been raised to speak when you talk on the phone. Understand that the third man is listening.
Yeah, so it's possible that conversations throughout the nation are being monitored on a random basis, or
that goes beyond possible to probable.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'd say it goes beyond that to undoubtedly.
Yeah.
I'd say it goes beyond that to 100%.
Yeah. Okay, Ted, I was wondering, are you still making that offer for that certificate on the IRS being a private company?
Yes. You have the address where to write?
Well, I sent mine in about a month or two ago, and
Did you? Okay, yeah, it's coming out. We've had a delay on it. I'll tell you why we've had this delay, Paul, because I received information that certificate might be a fraud, and I didn't want to send it out if it was, and I've researched it, and I found out that it is for real, so it's being sent out probably this week, or maybe even it's been sent out last week. You haven't received it yet.
Okay, well, I just was wondering, because I know I put some money in there, and I thought maybe our friendly postman might have got in there.
Well, if you don't receive it within 2 weeks, give my office a call. My new number now is 702-650-5676.
Okay, and
if you don't receive it within 2 weeks, give me a call, and we'll get another one out to you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Paul, and God bless you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Chip, we're back, right?
Ted, you got another caller?
The gentleman, John, wanted you to discuss the Grenada invasion, I believe.
Ted, I think they just said you have another caller.
Another caller, okay.
John from Minnesota.
John from Minnesota. Okay, John, are you there?
Yeah, a real quick one. In observing Reagan rather closely, and in 2020 hindsight, I think he was put into office so that George Bush could run the show. But anyhow, after he was shot, his mannerisms changed, the way he moved his arms, hands, and the way he walked changed. So So something happened to Reagan in that hospital setting. That was my observation.
Yeah.
And he changed.
Yes, he did.
He was very different after that. So I think they got him.
I would be inclined to think you're probably right, John. You want to hold on, or you want to come back? Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. Be right back, folks. Quick break. And we are back, folks. My guest today, Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. And we have Linda from Denver covering the Oklahoma City trial on the line. Right back to Chip in just a few minutes. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
How are you today?
The jury is out, and they spent yesterday doing closing arguments. And the United States, of course, asked the jury to put 2 and 2 together and come up with 6. But then Jones was able to use his 3 hours of nonstop closing argument. And he started off very slowly talking about the Lana Turner murder when the daughter killed Lana Turner's boyfriend. And he started off by saying there was no dispute that the daughter did it, but the jury acquitted her. He was making several references to, I believe, jury nullification. He kept saying you have the right to use common sense. And then he went through the entire scenario of how the evidence was gathered and how it was used. And he pointed out that the United States did not call very significant people. For instance, the Roger Moore, Bob Anderson guy who allegedly was robbed in order to finance the bombing. He didn't testify. And so Jones says, I wonder why they didn't want to call him. Perhaps there was no robbery. Perhaps he was a friend. He pointed out that the United States did not call the people who created the composite sketch of the bomber. He said, that's conspicuous. I wonder why they didn't want to use the people who allegedly saw Bob clean the closest. He pointed out that the United States did not call the chief of the forensic lab who was in charge of the gathering of the evidence and the testing of the evidence. And he said, I wonder why they didn't call him. And then he pointed out that the ammonium nitrate, which was purchased by Nichols and somebody at the co-op, which was allegedly the material used in the bomb, he pointed out that the Trill, which is the composite material in that product, were not the ones that were tested as being on that 9 by 9 inch piece of plywood. So he's definitely putting a seed of planting evidence into the closing argument. He pointed out that while they're accusing McVeigh of having PETN on his pockets of his clothes and on his T-shirt, he pointed out that they did test McVeigh's fingers for PETN when he was first arrested. It didn't show up on the fingerprint card. It didn't show up on nail scrapings that they had taken while he was in the Noble County Jail. And it didn't show up on the knife that they took out of his pocket, which was allegedly the knife used to cut the det cord. They pointed out that there was no evidence of explosives on his shoes or in his car. And they're just pointing out where all the holes in the testimony were. And I was really heartened because while Jones started off very slowly talking about Lana Turner and, pointing out that the daughter did it, but that she got acquitted, I thought that was a very difficult way to start. But he finished up very well by going word for word, line for line, through all the evidence and the reasons why it doesn't make the picture. And then he pointed out, we sympathize with the victims, but let's not send the wrong man off to the chair.
Is that it?
Yeah, so the jury went out at 9:30 this morning, and the prediction is that they're going to come back within a week.
Linda, I have a question. Why didn't Stephen Jones subpoena Roger Moore and the two people who gave the artist deception?
That's exactly what the U.S. attorney said when they got their chance to rebut. They said, well, we didn't call him, but isn't it conspicuous that Jones didn't call him? The reason is because Jones is the defense. He's not supposed to put on witnesses to prove his client did not do it. The burden of proof is on the United States, and he exploited that as a defense move to point out to the jury, I'm not the one who's supposed to be calling these people. And if he had, who knows what would have been said, but quite frankly, because they didn't allow Carol Howe to testify, even if he had subpoenaed people like Roger Moore, I'm willing to bet there would have been a motion in limine to prevent them from testifying, because those are the people that would have linked the bombing to the mysterious Arab guy who was allegedly linked to this drug running group from Mexico.
And how about Gagan? Anything said about Gagan during the trial? Kerry Gagan?
No, not a word.
Kerry Gagan, folks, has filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Attorney in Denver, claiming that he worked for the FBI as an informant for some 2 years, and that he tipped the FBI in advance that they were going to bomb the building in Oklahoma City. Did nothing about it. The FBI did nothing about it.
We did ask Jones when the courtroom filtered out this morning why, how he felt about being prevented from calling people that would have supported his 2-year-old allegations that there was something bigger involved behind this whole operation. And he still said no comment. He would not communicate with us. He wouldn't comment on, how his hands were tied. He didn't want to talk to the press at all. And quite frankly, like I said yesterday, I believe this is a win-win situation. It appears to me that they've created reversible error, and in exchange for preventing Jones from using Carol Howe, so that way there's no delving into the theory that there was somebody big behind this, and Jones will finally get what he wants for his client, even if it's not done here with the jury. It'll be done on appeal. I mean, there's guaranteed reversible error here.
Well, don't you feel, this is my opinion, Linda, that the reason the government did not pull and call for testimony that two people gave the artist exception is because that would have raised the issue of John Doe, too.
Well, of course. Anybody who was going to support the crazy conspiracy theory that Jones first talked about was definitely going to be precluded from testifying. Interestingly enough, yesterday, the United States got to say their closing remarks, and then Jones did an excellent job for 3 nonstop hours, and then he finished. He timed it to finish at 5 o'clock, hoping that, of course, he wouldn't be able to, he would finish up the day, but then the judge required that the jury stay, because the judge said, the United States gets the last word, and I want this finished today, so we'll take a 10-minute break, and the United States will come back. Well, what they did was, the United States sent Scott Mendelson, who, as a auxiliary sort of attorney, he was not one of the, heavy hitters. It was Beth Wilkinson and Hartzler who did the most interrogating and the most arguing. Well, I expected one of them to close up the case, and they didn't. They used Scott Mendelson, and I was in the press room yesterday afternoon, and he made so many remarks that were not going to be well taken. He tripped over himself, and he used the term hate material when it was obvious that the materials in McVeigh's cars were, John Adams quotes, Jefferson quotes, Benjamin Franklin quotes. I mean, to refer to all of it as hate material, even everyone in the press room groaned. And they were saying to each other, oh, he ought to give it up. I mean, he better quit now while he's ahead because he's alienating the jury. And I found that interesting. I thought, now, I don't believe the United States would make such a silly move sending an inexperienced attorney up there to alienate the jury. I found it coincidental that the United States seems to be laying their weapons down and walking away from this.
Hey, Ted, have Linda stay on there. Somebody wants to ask her a question.
Yeah, stay on, Linda, if you can you?
All right.
Okay. Right back, folks. Quick break. And we're back, folks. And my guest today is Chip Tatum. We'll be back to Chip in just a minute. Linda's still on the line, and we have Jim from Kansas for a question for Linda.
Right, Linda?
Yes.
I heard a radio station. I couldn't quite make out what they were saying, but they were saying something like they had changed the law where a federal judge could override a jury decision. Is there anything to that? Because if it's so, that'll guarantee him a conviction.
There is, that was a decision that was made around, I think, Christmas, the Christmas that just passed. And there was a lot of editorials on the fact that, what do we need voters for and what do we need juries for? Because judges can overturn a jury decision or they can modify it. Yes, that is a discretion that a judge can use, but that's not recent. It was just more clearly exposed because judicial discretion was expanded blatantly in that case, and I can't remember the details. But of course, the remedy is always appeal, and that's the point. Is that I just find it fascinating that McVeigh has been just about guaranteed reversible error because he was precluded a witness that was essential to his defense.
Uh-huh. Well, I was thinking maybe that would guarantee him a conviction because they've got to have somebody to hang it on.
Well, that's the point. In this situation, I pointed out that it's a win-win-win. It's a win for the United States because there was no embarrassing testimony from Carol Howe. It's a win for the public because they get their lynching and the jury can come back and convict him and everybody will be happy. And then it's a win for McVeigh because he can be reversed on appeal. He just needs to sit tight. In another 4 months, he'll be out. So even if they go through the whole process and they convict him and then say he deserves, the electric chair or however they do it, he still gets his remedy of appeal. So it's a win-win-win all the way around. I'm fascinated. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because everybody gets what they want and corruption manages to move forward without any interruption.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. McVeigh gets what he wants. Basically, that get the death penalty, and there's a good chance he might walk eventually. Now, I'm convinced, my opinion, that a deal has been made with McVeigh by the government to keep your mouth shut, don't say anything about John Doe and others, and we'll walk you through this. What do you think, Linda?
I think that's exactly the point, that given the fact that the government has decided that Carol Howe's a fruitcake and Gagan is a fruitcake, I think that they would be very naive to accept any promises of protection when this whole thing's over. I think it's an extremely dangerous position for him to be in, but he doesn't seem to care. He has been, he hasn't demonstrated any fear. I was totally fascinated that he didn't, how some people will demonstrate that they're sick about what's being said. I mean, Fortier totally sold him down the river, and he didn't seem to mind. I just thought, how can a man be so detached emotionally unless he knows something we don't know?
Exactly.
Ted, you got another caller, J2 from Oregon?
The fix is in other words. Oregon, are you on the line?
I sure am.
Yeah, your name is...
Okay, I have a question. Last time I heard, I must not be in contact with this, but last time I heard, the defense always gets the last word in capital cases, at least. What happened?
I don't know that. I don't know if that's a court rule or what, but from my criminal law says that the prosecutor gets the last word, as far as I've ever known.
Oh, really? I always thought the defense had...
Perhaps what you're thinking of is the sentencing phase. There's going to, if he's convicted with this phase of the trial, then he has to, he has a sentencing period. They'll give him about a 6-week reprieve, and then he comes back to sentencing, and they have a whole new, it's called an allocution hearing, where he gets to have his mother on the stand and cry and say, please, don't give him the chair. And then, his school teachers can come in and say he's a nice guy.
That's post-conviction.
Right.
But I heard, when I was a kid, a big point was made by my grandmother, who was studying to become an American, that the defense always gets the last word because that's the advantage given to a citizen to offset the enormous advantage in terms of resources that the government can bring to bear.
You are ringing bells in my memory. That,
yeah, we can't. Oh, and one more thing. Where did this ever get started? Where a judge can determine how the defense defends itself. If you defend yourself, you're in part defending yourself against the judge.
Well, it's never happened before. That's why I'm saying that I believe it's a guaranteed reversible error for the judge to see Carol Howard's irrelevant.
Well, it's not even a trial. This isn't a trial. You're guaranteed a trial. By jury trial.
Well, of course. The whole point of the anti-terrorist bill is to get rid of the nonsense of the Constitution allowing the defendant to have more rights than the poor victim. And it is true that several times in the closing arguments, Jones used the phrase rush to judgment. In other words, he said several times blatantly, he said, the FBI wanted to get a fall guy. They developed, they gathered the evidence, and then they created a scenario, and then they had to make it fit. And to use the term, they had to make the evidence, the square evidence, fit into a round hole.
Yeah.
So, it's people, the legal scholars, the consultants, the legal consultants in the press room were all remarking that, and shaking their heads and saying they've never seen this before. But I believe that's the whole point of the anti-terrorist bill, is to placate the public and say, let's get rid of this nonsense of the constitutional rights for the bad guys.
Yeah, right.
So let's see what happens. And even Jones in his closing remarks, which of course you can get on the internet, in the first 2 paragraphs, he explains that this case is in the hands of the jury, and these 12 Americans are going to determine the future of all criminal law. And he said to them, let's keep it the way it used to be. It's fascinating how he did point out to this jury, this is a precedent-setting decision, and depending on how you move, it's going to change criminal law from today on.
Yeah, one thing that we have is a situation where they become more and more unconstitutional. It's the accused becomes the victim, and that's what's really going to happen.
The tax court, you are accused, and you've got to prove why you didn't do it. And this is what I believe they're doing with criminal law. They're putting the burden of proof on the accused instead of making the United States prove that you did it.
Okay, they're making all accused victims, and this is new Nazi America, I guess,
or
something.
It's a shame that enough Americans don't see what's happening.
Well, we're trying to wake them up, Linda.
All right, it was nice talking to you.
Okay, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, Linda.
Bye-bye.
Be right back, folks. Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. Wake up, America. Wake up.
You like to grind your own grain and bake your own bread? Someday this may become a necessity. The incredible Country Living Grain Mill is the only grain mill on the market with a 20-year guarantee. Crank out the grain by hand or attach a V-belt to an exerciser or motor and grind virtually all dry grains, including wheat, corn, beans, amaranth, and more. If you're going to purchase a grain mill, purchase the best, the Country Living Grain Mill, for only $2.99 plus $12 shipping and handling by calling 1-800-205-6245. That's 1-800-205-6245.
The Leatherman Super Tool, the top of the line in compact multi-purpose tools, made out of top quality stainless steel materials and with a 25-year guarantee. Once it's yours, you won't know how you lived without it. The Leatherman Super Tool defines multi-purpose with a clean drill, pliers, regular pliers, wire cutters, clip-point knives, serrated knives, wood saw knives, ruler bottle opener, small, medium, large screwdriver, scope, screwdriver, electrical crimper, wire stripper, and yes, even more. The Leatherman Super Tool. Order yours today for $64 postpaid at 1-800-205-6245. The Leatherman Super Tool, 1-800-205-6245.
Tired of your shortwave radio acting up or breaking down? You need a Sangean shortwave radio. The Sangean line of shortwave is simply the best, and the American Freedom Network has them. For a basic, full-frequency shortwave, try an ATS 808 for $119.99 plus shipping. For a shortwave with sideband adjustment for listening to ham radio, choose the ATS 818 for $159.99 plus shipping, or the ATS 818 CS that has a time tape recorder for $199.99 plus shipping. But if you want the best radio out there, we offer the Sangean ATS 909. This state-of-the-art radio has AM/FM long wave, the full shortwave spectrum, as well as digital sideband adjustment using the highest quality components. Along with other features, the 909 is a great value for only $274.99 plus shipping. So order yours today at 1-800-205-6245. That's the Sangean line of shortwave radios available at the American Freedom Network at 1-800-205-6245.
And now, here's Ted.
And we're back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. Chip, we have two callers on the line. Terry from Texas. Terry, are you there?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a quick point. You were talking about McVeigh being acquitted. I just wanted to point out this trial is only for 8 officers supposedly killed in the line of duty because their pagers didn't work, I guess. But anyway, the DA in Oklahoma has been saying for the last week on the media that he's going to try them for the other 168 people as soon as the trial's over.
Well, that's interesting. Huh?
You haven't heard that on any of the media?
No, I haven't heard it. Have you heard it, Chip?
Yes, I heard it just today that they're getting ready to form indictments, and as soon as McVeigh, a verdict is on this, he will be moved to Oklahoma to be tried on 100 and something counts of murder.
That might be part of the deal that they're making.
Okay, well, I'll get off now.
Thanks,
I just wanted to point that out, yeah.
It would be interesting,
Colorado,
Ted, to ask Linda. You know, in most state courtrooms, you have the state flag and the American flag in the state courtrooms,
right,
where there's state jurisdiction. In federal courtrooms, I would like to know if there's an American flag in that room.
I don't know.
Real basic question, but I think you'll be surprised at the answer.
You mean in the Oklahoma City trial?
I know in my federal trial there wasn't an American flag in the room.
Okay, you want to explain that?
I don't know.
There wasn't
I wondered why isn't there an American flag on the room? There was a big Department of Justice flag in there, but that was it.
You mean not even a flag with gold trim on it?
No.
Well, okay, very interesting. We'll ask Linda that.
Yeah, after you know
Linda.
what.
Ted from Colorado. Ted, you on the line?
Yeah, I want to ask, have Linda, she's in a position to check. What other trials is this here Mage performed in that's dubious as far as his conduct is concerned and not allowing testimony and whatnot? Be interesting to know what this guy's background is. Who's setting this up?
Judge Mage?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that would be interesting. You got any thoughts on it?
As far as I'm concerned, it's not very. Don't speak very well for our justice system when you got clowns like this performing justice.
Can I say something here,
Yeah,
Ted?
please
go ahead.
Having sat through a federal trial, in my federal trial, and I know Judge Mage because I was held in Inglewood at Denver for a while to be moved to Florida for the treason trial. Judge Mage is a chief judge for that district. A very knowledgeable man, knows the rules inside and out. The problem is the rules were set in the 80s during the Bush administration, during the Reagan administration, that allowed them to disclude certain evidence. And I mean, I wasn't even allowed to take the stand in my trial. Let's talk about reversible error. But the judges in the appellate courts will not find that as reversible error. They'll just simply stand by the merits of that judge and allow it to stand.
Well, then
you don't think it'll be reversed?
Change the whole system.
Well, you're right.
There's something pretty corrupt in this.
You have to understand the system is in place for one thing.
I know.
And when you understand the whole whole picture of what goes on with the federal jurisdiction and the Department of Justice, then you'll understand a little more why they have those rules so that they hit that 95% conviction rate.
Well, I'm 80 years old and I've been around a long time, and I was in law enforcement work for 30 years. And I know how corrupt it is.
Okay, Ted.
I've been there.
I understand, Ted.
Okay, kid.
We all understand, Ted.
Take care.
Thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye, and thanks. Okay, folks, don't forget to send your donation. So I get these letters out, 7,000 plus letters to these ex-FBI agents. I need contributions. We're up to over $1,000 now. I need to raise $4,000 to pay for the postage and to pay for all the material that's going to go into it. And Chip, why don't you give out your name and address and phone number and so forth for the...
Sure, folks. The Tatum Chronicles are available at 1-800-201-7892.
See you tomorrow, folks. Thanks for tuning in. See you Monday, excuse me.
You've been listening to the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report with former FBI Chief Ted L. Gunderson. Our address is the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report, P.O. Box 18,000-259, Las Vegas, Nevada, zip 89114.
The American Freedom Network can now be heard at a computer near you. Check it out. www.amerifree.com, www.amerifree.com. The American Freedom Magazine is for those who want the truth. and not the fluff. Those who want the answers of today and not the score from yesterday's ball game. The American Freedom Magazine will capture your interest with its 80 pages of articles, insights, and advertisements. Articles that will shock you, insights that will shake you, and products that will save you. Just say no to the biased left-wing liberal media. Join the American Freedom Network for only $29.95 and receive 12 issues of this essential publication. Give us a call at 1-800-205-6245. Let freedom ring. Join us today for just $29.95. Don't be left out, and don't forget to call and join the American Freedom Network. You will receive 12 issues of the American Freedom Magazine and special low prices on quality products from the American Freedom Network. That's 1-800-205-6245. Join us, the American Freedom Network.
We are not
politically correct.
We are KHNC 1360, Johnstown, and KTMG 1370, Deer Trail.
Around the world, around the clock, this is UPI News. A previously convicted sex offender has been found guilty on all counts in the rape and murder of 7-year-old Megan Kanka. Reporter Glenn McDonald is in Trenton, New Jersey.
The jury was out 4.5 hours. They convicted Jesse Temendicross of capital murder, sexual assault, and kidnapping charges. As the verdict was read, Temendicross showed no emotion, but the family of slain Megan Kanka clasped hands and wept as the verdict was read.
The next step will be for the jury to decide whether to recommend if Temendicross be executed by lethal injection. The judge hasn't set a date for the penalty phase of the trial yet. The crime resulted in Congress passing Megan's Law, the measure that requires police to notify neighborhoods if a convicted sex offender moves in. In Denver, jurors have started deliberating the fate of Timothy McVeigh, accused of the worst act of terrorism committed on American soil. After receiving instructions, the jury was ordered sequestered until it reaches a verdict in the Oklahoma City bombing that killed 168. If McVeigh is found guilty, he faces the possibility of the death penalty. In that case, the jury would then decide what penalty to recommend. Prosecutors in Los Angeles say they will not recommend the death penalty in the trial of Mikhail Markasev. The 18-year-old Ukrainian immigrant is accused of killing Ennis Cosby, the only son of actor Bill Cosby, during a botched robbery in January. Prosecutors said today they will seek a maximum penalty of life in prison. A military jury at Aberdeen, Maryland, is deciding the fate of a former drill instructor convicted of several counts of sexual misconduct. Last night, that jury found Staff Sergeant Vernell Robinson, Jr. guilty of having sex with 5 female recruits. He could get 60 years in prison. From the UPI News Center in Washington, I'm Bobby Murphy. Vice President Al Gore has announced the allocation of safe drinking water funds to all states.
Gore says that, for starters, the administration will spend $725 million from a revolving loan fund to help the states upgrade deteriorating water systems. He says at least $7 million has been set aside for each state.
Parents simply should not have to think twice before turning on the tap. And this safe drinking water loan fund will make sure that the kitchen faucet does not become a household hazard.
The Vice President called the fund a small but significant investment that will pay enormous health. Folsom, the White House.
A Washington state man has been indicted on 11 counts for allegedly setting 3 fires at 2 Planned Parenthood clinics in California in 1992 and in 1994. This is UPI News. Good news from friends of singer-songwriter Bob Dylan. His condition seems to be getting better.
Friends say the legendary musician is improving slowly from what originally was described as a life-threatening viral infection. One unidentified friend tells the New York Daily News Dylan has been very uncomfortable. However, another says he has been feeling better as the week has gone on. The 56-year-old singer-songwriter was admitted to an unidentified hospital last weekend with severe chest pains and was diagnosed as having histoplasmosis. Dylan's record company says it remains optimistic the singer-songwriter will play his U.S. tour scheduled for late summer. Bill Riley, New York.
Maine's potato farmers are signing up in large numbers to dispose of millions of excess spuds for a federal payout. Under the program, the potato growers can designate their excess product to charity or for a livestock feed program. I'm Bobby Murphy, and that's the news from United Press International.
With the Volcano Stove, you can cook 2 chickens back-to-back with only 12 briquettes. Baking cobblers are easy when following instructions. In a survival situation, 25 pounds of briquettes will cook 2 meals a day for 2 weeks for up to 12 people. Or you can stack 3 to 4 Dutch ovens on the Volcano Stove and feed 30 or more people. The highly versatile Volcano Stove, on sale for only $99.99 plus shipping, makes a perfect gift. Call 1-800-205-6245. That's 1-800-205-6245. The Leatherman Super Tool, the top-of-the-line in compact multi-purpose tool.
You're hearing what I've done in my life.
I know. It's remarkable, isn't it? Well, I'm proud of you, Chip. You stepped forward. You're telling the American people what's going on. This is all documented, folks. There was an article in the Nexus magazine that's published in United Kingdom, is it?
Australia and the UK.
There's an article in April and May that you must read. How do the people get a hold of this article, Chip?
They can read it on our website, or they could call Nexus at 1-800-784-0745.
784-0745. Now, can they subscribe to the magazine by calling there?
That's correct. Also, there's a second edition of Nexus of the Pegasus File coming out this month or in June.
In June, okay, that's great. This article is unbelievable, folks. And my interviews have been based on information contained in these articles, so you know how all-inclusive it is, plus a combination of my personal knowledge and Chip Tatum's ad-libbing. And we have had just an outstanding series. By the way, if you folks are interested in buying the past 6 shows, they're $49.95. We sold a number of them. The state sold a number of them, actually. And you can call 1-800-205-6245. For $49.95, you can buy the previous 6 shows. We will offer these shows, starting with 2 days ago, for $49.95 also, and a transcript of the first 6 series is available for $29.95. That's being transcribed now, Chip. I don't know if I told you that or not. And so we'll have a transcript of that. We'll get this word out. The people need to be educated. Chip, have you had any thoughts since our show yesterday? I had some more specifics I want to run by you. Do you have anything that you'd like to fill in on from yesterday's show?
I don't think so. You're getting pretty specific. And I know after talking to you, we still have a lot to go through on the list.
So, oh, yeah. We got a long ways to go, and we will complete this. See, we've got 3 more shows after this, and then if we haven't completed all the questions I want to ask you, we'll do some more shows. We'll keep going. Do you know what the Illuminati is, Chip?
I've heard the Illuminati referred to on several occasions. Does it have something to do with the Bilderberg groups?
Yes. Well, it has to do with the Rothschilds. Actually, the Illuminati was founded in 1770s. The Rothschild interests assigned Adam Weishaupt, a German, to put together various goals. I think there's 26 goals in order to take over the world and to control a one-world government and to destroy sovereignty and destroy all religions. And Weishaupt came up with this plan that was presented on May the 1st, 1776. And I lecture, by the way, on the Illuminati. And it's of these goals, they are well documented in a book called Pawns in the Game. And basically, I think, in my opinion, based on everything that's happened in recent years, and particularly in my lifetime and how it's been accelerated and is being accelerated today, meaning going toward a one-world government, a new world order, I think this whole thing is described in one word, and that is the Illuminati. If you're not familiar with it, Chip, I'll be glad to send you my video on it. I have a 4-hour lecture. I don't know if you got time to sit down and listen to a 4-hour lecture or not, but it will give you a real quick education on it. do you know anything about the Illuminati yourself?
No, I know something about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and, some of the world financiers that we dealt with and the OSGs and worked for. The command element of the OSGs primarily receive their direction from the President or Vice President of the United States. However, the input came in, the request came in from these G7+1 group of countries where the Rothschilds and the rest were located.
Well, now that's interesting. I want to explain to the people what OSG stands for.
OSG is an operational subgroup. We were formed as a standing group to support the crisis pre-planning group and the terrorist incident working group, which were formed by direction of the President in the early 80s. The operational subgroups came into existence around 1986.
And G7+1 is what?
The G7 group of countries plus Russia.
So the 7 countries. What are the 7 countries?
There are 8 countries. I think that the countries that we dealt with were U.S., France, United Kingdom, Japan. Beyond that, those are the countries that I found out.
Say Russia's in there also?
That was the +1. So
that was the +1. G7+1. Okay, and now let's go back a minute and to one of your comments maybe less than a minute ago. That you received orders. Okay, we'll come back after the break, folks. Time for a quick break. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Support. No question about it.
(70587-5171). Or in the Denver metropolitan area, 1-303-654-9924. And now, back to Ted.
And we're back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA cover agent. Chip, oh, by the way, folks, if you're interested in that video, the Ted Gunderson Chronicles number 2, number 1 is available, talks about the New World Order also. But the Chronicles number 2 is available. 4-hour lecture on the Illuminati and how it affects and has affected our lives today. Send $35 to Ted Gunderson, Post Office Box 18,000, that's 30-259, Las Vegas, Nevada 89109. That's $35 to Ted Gunderson, P.O. Box 18,259, Las Vegas, Nevada 89109, for a 4-hour lecture on video. The Illuminati and how it affects our lives today. By the way, now, going back, Chip, to a comment you made, you said that we basically received indirect orders from the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Is that an accurate statement?
It would be a very accurate statement. Those people meet at least once a year, and our meetings would usually coincide following those meetings. Within a couple weeks after those meetings, we would meet with the OSGs for our annual planning.
Talking about the Bilderbergers?
That's correct.
And
at that point, there was input to us as far as neutralizations, where we needed to look and so forth.
Oh my goodness, what a discovery this is today, folks. Do you realize what we're hearing? This is documentation of the direct intervention in our daily lives, not in the United States, but around the world, by Bilderbergers, Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. Is that what you're saying, Chip?
That's what I'm saying. It was an awfully big coincidence that our meeting would be held within a couple weeks of these.
And who would attend your meeting?
It would be our group commanders, and I was an OSG commander at the time when I was pulled into these meetings. Mr. Colby was normally there. Ford was there. Normally in the 80s and 90s, I guess, the early 90s, President Bush was via SATCOM. It was normally held in a house on Jupiter Island.
And were the meetings always held down there?
Those are the only meetings that I attended. There were other meetings in other areas.
How many meetings did you attend?
I attended probably about 5 meetings.
And
planning conferences. However, I should say that there were interagency meetings all the time in Washington. We worked out of the U.S. Department of Labor building. There were some offices set aside. There was also some offices set aside in the for our science and technology section, our biologicals and everything. So we could grab hold of pretty quick over at National Institutes of Health and Safety area.
And how many countries would be in attendance? How many OSG and E7 representatives would be at each of these meetings that you attended?
It was primarily the OSG members, and we would have people from Israel sitting in on it. We would have members from our Danish intelligence was there, British intelligence, U.S. intelligence. On occasion, we would bring other foreign intelligence officers. I recall Turkish intelligence on one occasion.
And what would you discuss, Jeff?
Neutralization. There's an actual. We had an actual hit list of countries that we had to align by certain dates. I still have that list today.
You published that list?
I'm getting ready to publish a list. Right?
Among your Clinton Chronicles material?
That list was provided to the author of the Pegasus File, and I'm not sure whether he published it to come out, but it's some of the documentation that he has to substantiate everything.
And of the countries that you neutralized, how many would you see be named in each meeting?
Well, there was a list of about 60 countries. It wasn't a small list, and the concerns to each of those countries. One key figure in the planning stages of this was a man from England whose name was Figures. I later found that it was General Figures, and he was the head of MI6.
And
which is British intelligence. We heard recently that the MI5 was advertising for officers with. A lot of folks don't understand that MI5 is actually more along the lines of our FBI in England, and they aren't really their intelligence agencies.
More or less domestic.
Right.
And MI6 is pretty
more or less law enforcement, investigative.
And so MI5 would be like FBI, and MI6 would be like CIA.
That's correct.
And so you'd have a list, and what would some of the assignments be of the 60 countries?
Certain politicians, certain financiers in those countries needed to be aligned with the country itself. France was on the list, and I saw that while I was in prison, France went through riots right after one of the presidential visits. Not presidential, Mr. Bush visits.
Yeah.
He wasn't the president, though.
We went through riots, saying was Bush was over there?
Just following that. I believe that an ultimatum was published to the leader that get in line and didn't follow it. They had a very, very hard time. People couldn't even get bread.
And then he got in line?
Yep.
Real fast.
That's the word that I have.
Were you ever, in any instance, were you ever not successful in aligning these countries and neutralizing them?
Never.
Hang on just a minute, folks. Be right back. Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. Here's Ted. And we're back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. Chip, you never failed to neutralize a country once they were targeted for neutralization?
Not in my missions. There was one group that had a problem with neutralizing a particular person.
And was that the one where you mentioned that they killed his cousin?
No, that was Daniel Ortega. That was very successful.
Huh?
We fought in the Contra War for years in hopes of overthrowing that government, or actually in hopes of making enough money to fund these black operations through the years. The difference between covert operations and black operations, covert operations are a funded entity by Congress. Congress is aware of them, they authorize the missions, and it goes forward. Black operations is not authorized by Congress, and Congress has no knowledge of it, and therefore doesn't exist for all practical purposes. When a congressional investigation is begun into black operations, they're not going to find anything. They're not going to find documents sitting in CIA headquarters with funding authorization or any paper trail so that they can track this. These operations have to be self-sustaining and self-funding. And Oliver North made that statement in speaking of the enterprise when he was challenged to set up a self-sustaining entity.
Where did he make that statement?
In front of Congress during the congressional hearings.
Do you have a copy of that statement?
Yes, I do somewhere.
Chip?
In the piles of rubble.
Yeah, I know. I have the same problem. Are you going to be putting a book out?
Yes, I am. I have Red Rock, Operation Red Rock out in manuscript form now. That's going to be Volume 1 of The Life of Pegasus. It will carry all the way through to today.
Do you have a publisher?
Not yet.
Would you like to talk to me about that?
Sure.
I have published my book, How to Locate Anyone Anywhere Without Leaving Home. And by the way, folks, that's available also. $15. It's doing very well. It's 10th printing, and I have an agent. That's good.
I have communications for you about the agent, or from you about the agent. I do have a publisher in Great Britain who's very interested in doing the Pegasus.
Okay. Well, probably be more successful over there than here, but I'll help any way that I can. Going back to neutralizing these various countries, what was the one country where you had difficulty? Can you name that?
It wasn't a country, it was a particular person. And that's just because they used the wrong weapons.
Well, can you tell us about it?
Without naming the name of the person, I will.
Okay.
The order was given to take this person out. It was in a Central American country. The discussion went back and forth on how to do it. My unit wasn't given the assignment to neutralize this foreign agent. So we decided that when it was decided who would, it was German intelligence that worked along with British intelligence. I think that they hired a South American group to do it, and they used a bomb. My weapon of choice would have been a missile from a helicopter, but the bomb ended up killing some journalists rather than the target.
Okay, I know who you're talking about now. I'm aware this has been written up quite extensively around the country, right?
That's correct.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that kind of backfired on them, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It caused everything to lay low for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It caused a slowdown in the planning calendar of the New World Order.
Well, bet we can't have some more slowdown. Where are we going to go, Jeff? Where can you go in the world? Looks like they've got us covered every place we look, right?
Well, you can get a big boat and go fishing, I guess.
You've got to come ashore.
That floating island would be a sovereign nation.
Beg your pardon?
That floating island may be a sovereign nation. I don't know.
You got to come. You have to come ashore and get your supplies.
That's certainly true. Well,
so, let's talk about intervention in other countries. We're on that subject right now. How about the assassination of the Prime Minister of Sweden?
I am aware of that. It happened before my involvement with the OSGs, but I am aware, and I did hear discussion in meetings with the OSGs that there was involvement there, and that Mr. North was probably involved.
Well, can you give us more details?
I'll give you plenty more details. I was told that Mr. North went to the Prime Minister of Sweden in an attempt to gain end-user certificates for weapons that were being transferred around the world in weapons sales, arms and weapons. That Prime Minister didn't want to have anything to do with it. Unfortunately, Mr. North had laid out the whole plan already. Mr. North and his cronies.
Right back. Time for a quick break, folks. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Report.
Call 1-970-587-5171. Oh, in the Denver metropolitan area, 1-303-654-9924. And now, back to Ted.
And we're back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. Chip, before we go on and talk about the assassination of the Prime Minister of Sweden, I want to ask you another question in regard to your operational subgroup meetings. Who presided over those meetings?
Secord did on occasions, and Colby did on occasions. However, the vice president or president was always available via SATCOM links.
So, in other words, if they had to talk to the president or the vice president, they could just pick up the phone and call him.
Well, the meeting was normally held over secure SATCOM.
What's that mean?
Satellite communications.
Satellite communications, okay. So you had these very top-level people involved who were apparently or obviously seeking pass-on instructions from the Bilderberg meeting that took place earlier, probably within 2 weeks prior to this meeting. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. And you know, today it's very interesting to note that our ex-president, Mr. George Herbert Walker Bush, is sponsored by some of the largest financial institutions in the world. Is sponsoring. He attends meetings with leaders around the world. It would be interesting to be a fly on the wall in those meetings.
It certainly would be, wouldn't it? Did anybody at these meetings use the word Bilderberg?
No.
Did anybody mention Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Committee of 300, anything like that?
No.
And how long would the meetings last?
We lunch let's say 6 to 7 hours. We would have our basic planning meeting. We'd break off into groups, go over plans, programs, codes, so forth, and break.
And how often would you meet? Once a year?
Twice a year.
Twice a year. And would the same people be at the meetings?
No, the people would vary, and sometimes I didn't meet twice a year, but the meetings were twice a year.
Depending on need to know?
And availability.
Availability?
We didn't stop we were a very busy group. We didn't stop our work because there was a meeting.
How many people would attend the meeting?
The most I've ever been in a meeting with was about 30.
Least?
Maybe about 20.
What was the people who attended, what was their overall reaction?
We were all there with a purpose.
Were they?
It would be like having your FBI staff sitting in there with in a staff meeting. It's no different, Ted.
Discussing strategy, discussing
correct
problems, discussing what we do next, etc. Right?
That's correct.
And did any of these people, these 30 people or 18 to 20 people, at any time indicating displeasure in what was taking place?
Some of us did, some of us didn't. Regardless, you don't sit there and you don't discuss your displeasure in front of your command element.
I mean, on the side afterwards, over college.
Oh, sure, there was a lot of disgruntled people on the side, but you do what you had to do. We knew what threat there was if we walked away. We all knew that because we'd seen it. You know, it isn't like we just walked into this with our eyes closed. We'd been in the industry for years and years. We were the best in the industry. That's why we were there.
Right. So in other words, if you did walk away, it's either neutralized.
There would be a neutralization of the member that walked. Yes.
What?
That's a fact.
Yeah.
There would be a neutralization. He would then become a target.
Then become a target, and the tables would be turned, and he'd either be taken out physically or neutralized by being sent to jail for a phony charge such as treason, right?
And many of us were prepared for that. The only ones who would be sent to jail and not terminated were those who had placed themselves well with insurance policies.
Such as Chip Tatum.
That's correct.
How many others have done what you've done?
I have 8 others who are very, very close to me, who were involved with the same insurance policy and at the right time prepared to come forward.
And are these 8 others, have they been jailed or targeted yet?
Some have, and some are in hiding.
When you say in hiding, they're no longer working for the agency?
That's correct.
And, okay, well, I don't want to ask you...
And there are some that are currently with them, currently employed.
And these ones that are currently employed, they'll come forward at the right time, right place. I hope that they have their insurance policies all in order.
They do.
Okay, good. Well, I'm proud of every one of them. Any way I can help in any way, as I mentioned on the phone yesterday after the show, I'll be glad to do it. Anytime they want to come on the show, glad to do it. Whatever I can do to get the word out.
I just need to say I'm their mouthpiece at this time, simply because for them to come forward doesn't serve any purpose.
Right. Well, you're doing a great job, I'll tell you that right now. Any other comments you'd like to make about these meetings, semi-annual meetings?
No, but that's the guts of what has gone on. That's the planning conferences that causes the problems that we see in the world today. The adjustments in law, the adjustment in the United States and in other nations, the pressures put onto the United Nations to conform to our standards. Speaking of the OSGs and the Council standards, that's the whole idea. Put as much pressure, and you can see we've put heavy financial pressures on the United Nations, and even replaced the president, who was a very popular president, with the rest of the world, with the rest of the countries involved. But a particular small group, who are the powerful people, didn't want him there, and so he was not there.
Well, Clinton voiced his displeasure over having him there, and was the person who was really, at least openly, spearheading the attack against him.
That's correct.
And what about our domestic agencies like FBI, DEA, immigration? Did they attend any of these meetings?
There were a few members of the FBI that were there. Not the ATF or DEA, no.
But FBI was the only one that was there?
That's correct.
You want to name any of those people?
One of them was Terry Nelson.
Terry Nelson, the one down in Florida?
That's correct.
The one that you named yesterday on the show?
That's correct.
And the one that is involved in bringing drugs into Montana?
Pardon me?
Is he the one you said is bringing drugs into Montana?
He's the man that's involved with the Canadian and bringing drugs up from Haiti into Montana. That's correct.
Okay. You know anything about Woody Johnson, agent in charge in Atlanta?
No, I don't.
I have a little intelligence information on him. I'll be glad to pass on to you. Off the air, I can't discuss it right now. Any other comments you'd like to make? Did these FBI agents that were in these meetings, did they participate to a degree, or they just sit and listen?
Oh, they absolutely participated, and were in charge on the domestic side. You know, as a air commander, my job was moving goods and personnel.
Right. Be right back, folks. Hold your thoughts, Chip. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Report. Wake up, America. Wake up. And my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25 years deep cover agent, CIA. Chip, we have a caller, Jock from Colorado. Jock, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You have a question for Chip Tatum?
Yeah, I do. One quick question, Chip. Do you know who either owned and or controlled Air America?
Well, Air America was owned in part by the CIA. They don't deny that. The other owners, I'm not sure, but Southern Air Transport also is owned in part by the CIA. As a matter of fact, Southern Air Transport is currently on an Air Force base in Ohio. It's their new home.
Do you know anything about Johnson's involvement with Air America?
No.
Okay.
You mean President
which Johnson are you talking about? President Johnson?
That's him.
You mean our former president?
For rumor control in Vietnam, that's what I heard.
You don't know anything about that, Chip?
No, I know that the Johnsons owned the Bell helicopter, and that's why we lost our Hughes 500s that we flew down there, the Loaches. and they were replaced by a far no other way to put it but crappier aircraft when they brought the Jet Rangers in.
Are you still on, Jock? Yes, Jock went off here. Okay. One other question I want to ask you about your meetings, your group meetings with the various agencies and the FBI, et cetera. Other than Nelson, who else was there at this meeting for the FBI?
There was another agent, and he was out of Washington. Nelson wasn't out of Washington. He was from somewhere else. But I'm not sure that it was South. I think it was South Florida that he was out of, because I think he was tasked to the South Florida Drug Task Force, Anti-Drug Task Force, and that's his affiliation with Vice President Bush was there, because Bush was the head of the South Florida Drug Task Force.
Oh, you talking about the other agent other than Nelson?
Right, and I'm not sure who he was, but he was out of Washington.
Okay, and any other comments you'd like to make about the meetings that you went to? Nope. Your duty was primarily to transport and to ferry these guys around the world. Is that what you do?
That's correct, to provide transportation and protection.
And of course, you had a dual responsibility in addition to flying, obviously.
That's right. No one had just one job.
Okay. Out of the, say, the 30-some people that attended this one meeting, what percentage would be Americans? What percentage would be foreign?
That's so hard to say, because it was just a mishmash. It's an international group. It's hard to say. I'd say maybe 20%, 25% were U.S.
So we had a large influx of foreigners come into these meetings.
Well, sure, this wasn't a U.S. group, and that's what everyone needs to understand. This wasn't the CIA doing this. This was Mr. Bush and his grand organization, the one who looked at it.
Well, this is shocking, certainly unbelievable information, but it's something that I've always suspected. You know, Brian Gumbel, on one of his shows right after the Oklahoma City bombing, Jim Nichols was on the show being interviewed by Brian, and Jim Nichols said something to the effect of, well, if you read Ted Gunderson's report, I have a bombing report, by the way, 160-some pages now. That's available, folks, by sending $20 to the Oklahoma City bombing. It's very revealing, by the way. Anyway, Jim Nichols said to Brian Gumbel, have you read Ted Gunderson's Oklahoma City bombing report? And Brian Gumbel says, oh, Gunderson, he's just a conspiracy theorist. You think that the media might have had somebody at any of these meetings?
No.
Huh?
No.
No, for sure? No. I mean, couldn't they have had some covert in there?
No.
You think that the media itself...
As a matter of fact, there was someone that they just suspected of being a double agent in there, and he was gone within the hour. No trial, no nothing, he was gone. He was sharp-faced.
Well, you mean he was gone? They thought he was with the media meeting? Or?
No, they thought he was providing information from our meetings to his own country. Understanding that most members of the group were active intelligence officers of their country. They were chosen for this mission. They were to report through the OSGs, and they were not to report back to their home country any of the events that were taking place.
Oh, they were not to report back to their home country?
That's correct. We did not report to the United States. So the only reason we did is our boss happened to be the president at the time.
Well, who did you report to? The president? Is that what you're saying, or the vice president?
The man who headed the U.S. side of this was George Bush. He was the vice president at first, and then he became the president.
So everybody in that meeting, even people from England, Turkey, France, wherever they were from, had to report to the president, and they were told not to report back to their own country?
That's correct. British intelligence agents reported through their chain of command, which ended at General Figures, and from General Figures it went directly to Mr. Bush. It did not go to Maggie Thatcher.
So the politicians in these various countries weren't even aware of the meeting?
Absolutely. Had nothing to do with their country, Ted. Had absolutely nothing to do with their country.
Shocking. Very shocking. What country was this fellow from that was kicked out?
He was Argentina.
Well, what did they do, run a tap on his telephone or something?
I have no idea. I just know he was there 1 hour. He was taken out. We were told he wouldn't be back.
Well, did they eliminate him, quote unquote, quote, or do you think he was put on a plane and sent home?
No, they don't just send you home. They send you back to your maker.
Wow. Shocking. George Bush, New World Order, One World Government. Watch out. Right around the corner. Did you have anything to discuss anything of a domestic nature in these meetings?
No, not normally. It really didn't have anything to do with what our mission was. There were times where domestic problems would come up. Speaking of problems within the chain of command domestically, but that's all.
And you just discuss it and go on to the next topic. The fellow from Argentina, do you remember his name?
No.
What year was that?
1988 or 89.
Well, unfortunately, that these things do happen. Okay, we'll be right back, folks. Time for a quick break. Wake up, America. Wake up. And we are back. My guest today, Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. Before I go back to Chip, let me remind you that the first 6 shows with Chip are available for $49.95. We're beginning a series of 6 more shows with Chip that will be available for $49.95 audio tapes. Get copies of these shows, distribute them to your friends. This show today is, I would have to rate this as the #1 show so far because of the information that is being provided by Chip that documents the New World Order, the One World Government, the Bilderbergers, and how George Bush et al. Are manipulating our lives on a daily basis. Get copies of these tapes, folks, and get them out to your friends. This is critical. Also, a transcript of the first 6 shows is available for $29.95. Call 1-800-205-6245. And if you want to hear the second hour of the show in detail, if you can't afford the tape, you can buy yourself a shortwave radio and listen to the second hour, 800-205-6245 also. And also, folks, I am still working on planning to send, I will, one way or another, a letter to all the ex-FBI agents, and I need your help on this. We're up to $1,020 now. I have a goal of $4,000. Thank you, all of you who have contributed thus far, but I need some more money, and this letter will go out to over 7,000 FBI agents as case examples, enlightening them, alerting them as to what's going on. These people have no idea what's going on in most instances, because they continue to read the New York Times, the LA Times, Dallas Morning News, and other mainstream media. Watch ABC, NBC, CBS on television. These people do not furnish information. They do not furnish the facts. You have to listen to shows like this in order to come up with this information. So send your donation to Ted Gunderson, Post Office Box 18,000-259, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89109, the lower left-hand corner right, FBI project. Chip, back to you. This is really revealing information that you're furnishing to us. I wanted to get into the assassination of the Prime Minister of Sweden. We'll have to do that on the second hour. I did mention that Ollie North had laid out the plans to the Prime Minister, and that he did not go along with it, and therefore they just went out and killed him. Oh, these people are judge, jury, God, and all in one wrapped up. Who are they to make decisions like this and take people's lives?
Ted, though, they did give him the opportunity to align before they did that, and he knew what the end result would be if he didn't.
Well, are the Swedish people aware of this?
I don't know.
I mean,
well, yeah, I believe that they are. It was a South African intelligence agent was utilized to do the deed. I have never looked into it, but I even have the name of the man that we used as a South African contact who owed favors to the group.
Well, we'll get into details of the assassination of the Prime Minister of Sweden in the next hour. And for you folks who do not have a radio available because of one reason or another, I urge you to buy a transcript of this show and listen to the whole 2 hours. If you got any closing comments you'd like to make for this first hour?
No, folks, you can order the Tatum Chronicles, sets of my documents at 1-800-201-7892. That's 800-201-7892, extension 58. For every set of chronicles I'm able to sell, I can send another set to a world leader somewhere and let them read what went on.
Good. Great. Thanks a lot, Chip. We'll see you in a few minutes.
You've been listening to the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report with former FBI Chief Ted L. Gunderson. Our address is the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report, P.O. Box 18,000-259, Las Vegas, Nevada, zip 89114.
Where does money come from? Where does it go? Who makes it? The money magician's secrets are unveiled in The Creature from Jekyll Island. In this compelling book by G. Edward Griffin, you get a close look at the smoke and mirrors that create the illusion called money. It's all here, the cause of war, inflation, depression, and prosperity. Your worldview will definitely change. Putting it simply, this may be the most important book on world affairs you'll ever read. For your copy from the American Freedom Network for only $24 postage paid at 1-800-205-6245.
You can now order both Naked Into the Wilderness and Naked Into the Wilderness Part 2 for only $39.95. If you just own one of these great books on survival skills, order both and give one as a gift for only $39.95 for both Naked Into the Wilderness and Naked Into the Wilderness Part 2. This is a great deal for anyone who's missing out on these two essential books. To order, just call the American Freedom Network at 1-800-205-6245. That's 1-800-205-6245. Talk Radio.
It's what's for dinner, and breakfast, and lunch.
24 hours a day. KHMC 1360 Johnstown and KTMZ 1370 Deer Trail.
Around the world, around the clock, this is UPI News. A verdict has been reached in the case of twice-convicted sex offender Jesse Temendekwas in Trenton, New Jersey. That verdict has not yet been revealed. Temendekwas was charged with the 1994 kidnapping, rape, and murder of 7-year-old Megan Tanka, a crime that inspired Megan's Law. That measure requires police to notify neighborhoods of a convicted sex offender is moving in. If Temendekwas is found guilty of murder, the jury will reconvene next week to decide whether he should be executed. The jury in the Oklahoma City bombing trial in Denver has received its instructions from Judge Richard Nash and is now deliberating the fate of Timothy McVeigh. Vicki Ham survived the blast at the Murrah Federal Building.
I'll be tied to the radio. I don't want to miss it. We'll only have an hour to get out here, and I don't want to miss it at all.
The word from Denver is that the jury will work through the weekend if necessary. The jury will be sequestered throughout deliberations. If convicted, McVeigh could face the death penalty. Whether the accused killer of Ennis Cosby will face the death penalty is the subject of a court hearing today in Los Angeles. 18-year-old Mikhail Markasov allegedly shot Bill Cosby's only son to death in January in an attempted robbery. Staff Sergeant Vernell Robinson Jr. faces a maximum of 60 years in prison. His sentence is under deliberation today by a military jury at the Army Proving Ground at Aberdeen, Maryland. Last night, the jury found Robinson guilty of 19 counts of sexual misconduct for having sex with 5 female recruits at Aberdeen. The tornado that nearly destroyed Gerald, Texas on Tuesday was even more powerful than first thought. The National Weather Service now says on its scale of F1 to F5, that twister was an F5 with winds of over 260 miles an hour. From the UPI News Center in Washington, I'm Polly Murphy. The evacuation of Americans from turbulent Sierra Leone is underway. Evacuees are being taken to the USS Kearsarge off the coast of that West African country. Marine Captain Jason Johnston is on that ship.
We
went in with enough force to ensure that we could handle any problems. We did not anticipate that, and of course, there has been no problems since we went in this morning. So obviously, that's one of the big contributing factors to the high rate of evacuees that we are processing.
The evacuation of the several hundred Americans is expected to wrap up today. President Clinton's back at the White House and will focus today on domestic policy. Vice President Al Gore and a team of administration officials will be talking to reporters about the economic gains that they say have been made during the Clinton administration. Vice President Gore says the balanced budget bill includes $725 million for a safe drinking water fund. This is UPI News. A big drop for new home sales last month, 7.7%. First Albany Corporation economist Ed Lavarnway looks at the reasons.
Always this time of year, weather can be a factor. We had some strike factors as well that could be involved. But bottom line, it may relate to the thesis out there that the economy is slowing a little bit.
Also today, the Commerce Department said the economy grew at a healthy rate of 5.8% for the first quarter of this year. Friends of Bob Dylan say the legendary musician is improving slowly from what was originally described as a life-threatening viral infection. Dylan was hospitalized last weekend at an undisclosed location after suffering from chest pains. The 10th Van Cliburn International Piano Competition semifinals resumed today in Fort Worth, but with 11 competitors instead of 12. One of the semifinalists spilled hot water on his hand. That's the news from UPI.
The deals on quality long-term food can be yours through the American Freedom Network. Our 4-person one-year food supply, a total of 234 number 10 cans, is low priced at only $19.98.99. The 2-person 3-month supply is only $259.99, and the 1-person 30-day supply is $149.99. All prices require shipping. Long-term storage food is a wise investment for unseen situations such as layoffs or natural disasters. And the American Freedom Network has some of the lowest prices on the market. Call 1-800-205-6245. 1-800-205-6245.
Naked into the Wilderness is a 400-page must-read survival book. It is for those...
To join in on the conversation with Ted, call 1-970-587-5171. Or in the Denver metropolitan area, it's 1-303-654-9924. And now, here's Ted.
And good day to all you beautiful people across this great land of ours, the United States of America, to our friends up north in Canada and Mexico, down south, Central South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. And welcome to the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. We have another day with Chip Tatum. He's a regular standby now. I think we're going to call this the Tatum Gunderson Show one of these days, Chip. And Chip is telling all he's a CIA, ex-CIA, undercover, covert operator, 25 years. But before we get into Chip's story on this second hour, let me remind you that I said every hour on the hour until June the 9th, I'm going to talk about the American Heritage River Initiative. Okay? You recall that I mentioned on the previous show the purpose of the initiative is to designate 10 chosen rivers by the fall of 1997. 10 more will be chosen the following year, so on and so forth. And this is another attempt to take over land as far as I'm concerned, and we will have some experts on this show later on in this month to further discuss this land grab, land takeover by the Clinton administration, giving you details and documentation. But this particular situation, the American Heritage River Initiative, there is a waiting period or a comment period up until June the 9th. After June the 9th, then we know they're going to take action eventually, but the only time that we're allowed to talk about it publicly or to make an issue out of it will be between now and June the 9th. And, of course, this is a 2-week period. It's not long enough. So we are going to tell you that you have to write to the Executive Office of the President, Kathleen McGinty, M-C-G-I-N-T-Y, Council on Environmental Quality, Washington, D.C., 20503. Phone Karen Hobbs, H-O-B-B-S, 202-395-5750. Fax Kathleen McGinty, 202-456-2710, and ask that the comment period be extended to 90 days, not 2 weeks, another railroad job by the Clinton administration, to request written material regarding the American Heritage River Initiative. 3, read it when you receive it. 4, proceed, exercise your rights as citizens of the United States to express your voice in the affairs of this country, or forever be quiet. In your complaints about what the government is doing, do not agree or consent quietly or without protest. We have to get to the bottom of these problems. These people are sneaking these bills through, these treaties, and these matters at our expense. And they're taking our land away from us. They're taking our children away from us. Act now, folks. Please, 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 call right back, email your state congressmen and senators, and request them to seek an extension of the comment period for the Federal Registry notice. We're doing this through the Federal Registry notice, another guise like executive order. Okay, Chip, back to you. How you doing again on the second hour, Chip?
Doing fine, Ted. Thank you.
Good. Listen, Chip, I'd like to talk a little bit about Bill Colby's death. There's a fellow named Gordon Novell that's been on the American Freedom Network on a number of occasions, claimed to have had personal conversations with Colby. I know we talked about this on one of the earlier shows. Is there anything more you can fill us in on? You know Gordon Novell, first of all?
I don't know Gordon Novell, Ted. I was, as a matter of fact, during Bill Colby's death, during that time period, I was in federal prison, so I don't know a lot about his death. I know that a few weeks prior to his death, I had written him a letter and asked him if he would write the foreword to the book that I had finally started writing, which is Operation Red Rock. Unfortunately, things didn't work out.
Did you ever hear back from him?
I didn't.
Huh? So you don't have anything more to add to the show today than what you gave to us previously?
Nothing other than an opinion. My opinion is he was assassinated.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. He always put the flag up when he went out in the water. The mariner's flag, it was down. The computer was on. A half meal was on the table. He's a very fastidious person, according to John DeCamp, who was a very close friend of his. And he would not have gotten up, walked out, left the computer on, left the meal on the table, and gone out in that water. Also, he was very careful about not going out in the water when the water was rough, and the water was rough on that particular occasion. Everything points to an assassination.
I agree with that. The thing about assassinations and about crossing people the wrong way in the business that we were in, it never has to be done immediately. Rarely does it have to be done immediately, especially if it's in retaliation for something. Time does things that make people get a little bit off of their norm, and it makes it a lot easier to do the deed. So, understanding that one day, for the deeds that were done, especially if he crossed any foreign intelligence entities, he may have to pay for that, and I believe that that's what happened.
Well, he was 3 months away, I understand, from having been out of the CIA for 25 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, but after you've been out of the CIA for 25 years, you do not have to run any of your writing past the agency. Is that right, Jeff?
Well, and depending on what you write, you may have to, yes. It just depends on what it includes.
Mm-hmm. But he was also in the process of writing a book. Are you aware of that?
I am aware of that, yes. And I think that he wouldn't have undertaken a task of writing a book about how nice it was in the CIA. I think he had some things to say.
I definitely think he had some things to say. Everybody that I've talked to that knew him had spoken very highly of you.
Very, very good man.
Yes, I understand that. Folks, I want to mention, we just have a few seconds before we go into a break, that these tapes, we are on a second series of tapes with Chip Tatum. These tapes are available, 6 shows, for $49.95. Get your order in early. $49.95 for 6 shows on the second series. Transcript from the first 6 series of tapes is available for $29.95. Call 800-205-6245. Be right back, folks. Wake up, America. Wake up. And we are back, and my guest today is Gene Chip Tatum, 25 years CIA Black Ops operator. And we have Kevin on the line from North Carolina. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Ted, great show, and Chip, you're very courageous.
Thanks, Kevin.
Listen, the Prime Minister, was it of Sweden or Norway that was assassinated?
That's Sweden.
Okay. Now, the guy that shot him, then they put him on, supposedly shot him, his name was Gunderson, they put him on trial.
Another Gunderson?
No, Gunderson.
Oh.
I hope it wasn't one of my cousins. If it was my cousin, I'd just take him out behind the shed, just whip his fanny, I'll tell you right now.
Well, they tried this guy named Gunderson, and he got off. And he moved to a small town in North Carolina called Salisbury. And they found his body up in the mountains, naked, murdered.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
When did that happen, Kevin?
I'm thinking 4 or 5 years ago. The guy that supposedly killed him and is in jail right now is a ex-police officer by the name of Underwood.
Kevin, do you have newspaper articles or any clippings on it?
I do not. It's in the Salisbury Post. The stories were in the Salisbury Post. I can do some digging.
Would you do that? I'd like to see that and furnish that to me, and I'll furnish it on over to Chip Tatum also.
All right, I'll see if I can dig that
I find
up.
that very interesting that he would be murdered, and he was murdered by a police officer or ex-police officer?
Ex-police officer. This guy murdered him and his girlfriend's mother. And he's in jail, I think, up in Boone, North Carolina.
Very interesting. You have another interesting case out of North Carolina, the Jeffrey McDonald case.
Yes, he's innocent also.
Absolutely innocent.
Chip, the guy, who was the senator or the congressman that tipped off the Cubans in Grenada?
You know, I don't know. And that's why it's not on my webpage. And the purpose of putting that on the webpage is to put it out there so that I can find out what his name was. We were debriefed that it was done at a debriefing and on board the ship, and because we questioned what the hell went on here. Why did this happen to us? How come we didn't have the cover of darkness? How come we didn't have the element of surprise? They were waiting for us. And that's when we were told a congressman had tipped them off.
Didn't the officer that wrote the book called Seals also make a comment about that in his book?
He may have. You're talking about
can't remember his
Dick
name.
Marcinko?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that, and this is the only thing that you'll ever hear me say in behalf of Ollie North. When Ollie North went before Congress and told them that, and lied to them, and would not tell them the truth about certain things, it's because Congress can't keep a secret. And you know, I agree with him not talking about some things in front of Congress because sometimes it's more dangerous to put the information out there than it is not to say anything.
Right. Well, keep up the good work.
Thanks.
And,
thanks a lot, Kevin.
You're welcome.
And let's talk about Grenada for a minute there. Tell us about the Grenada invasion.
Well, the Grenada invasion took place, what was it, October 1983. We were put out, I was with Task Force 160, 160th Aviation at the time. We were put on ships. Part of our portion of the attack was to go into the airport at the southern end of the island, which was the Cuban stronghold. You know, as it was announced to Congress early in the wee hours of the morning by the president, as is required before we actually attack a sovereign nation, the president by law has to report this to Congress that he is exercising his privilege under the War Powers Act in attacking. He did that. He advised Congress. There was either a single congressman or a group of congressmen who did not agree with this. They thought it was inhumane for us to attack this Cuban stronghold on the island of Grenada without warning the Cubans. and giving them a chance to leave. We had talked to them on several occasions saying, shut it down, get out of there. I don't know what more needs to be said. As the Night Stalkers, 160th, we had two things going for us. We're flying slow helicopters laden with munitions and with special operations troops on board. We were flying. The only thing we had going for us was our training under night vision, coming in at pre-dawn hours, and the element of surprise. Well, the president, when he found out that it had been compromised because a congressman had, through a third world country, notified the Cuban embassy that we were coming in, and what time, and where.
Oh, terrible.
Our element of surprise was gone. The president, at that point, couldn't make the decision, didn't want to say, send them in, until it was too late. We had lost the element of darkness, so we couldn't go in under the cover of darkness. We had to go in at dawn, just after dawn. The lights were there. The sun was coming up, and we could be seen. And instead of catching the Cubans still sleeping or unaware of us coming in, they were sitting at the runway with a ZSU, which is a Soviet-built anti-aircraft weapon, waiting for us. There was a good man, a Captain Clay, young man from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, wife and two kids, who was killed in that mission simply because the Cubans were waiting. That congressman killed Captain Clay. That congressman committed an act of espionage against the United States and should be tried.
We don't know who he is.
We don't know who he is.
But
someone out there knows who it is. Maybe even John DeCamp knows.
Or possibly a group of congressmen, right?
That's right.
Well, don't you think Colby would have known who it was?
I don't think so. I think it was held very close with the Good Old Boys Network, and certain, the way they work it is, give us this bill or give us that bill, and we won't say anything.
Certainly Bush would probably know who that congressman was.
Yeah, so there are people who know who those congressmen or who that congressman was, and he should be tried in a court of law.
Absolutely. How many boys? Well, let's hold our thoughts a minute, folks. Be right back. Time for a quick break. Wake up, America! Wake up!
And now, here's Ted.
And we're back, and my guest today is Gene Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. Chip, how many boys did we lose in Grenada?
I'm not sure how many were reported. I know of 8 from Special Operations.
And what was the purpose of the Grenada invasion for those youngsters who are listening who were not around at that time?
The real purpose or the media purpose?
Both.
The media purpose was simply that we had a Cuban airport being built on a sovereign nation. The Cubans had the Cuban influence was taking over the island. We had a lot of American medical students on board the island, and it was time to liberate them and take care of the possible Cuban expansion into a sovereign nation. The actual reason for it was Task Force 160 had been training for a long, long time with our new equipment. Never been able to use it. We'd been in place for about 3 to 4 years building the unit, and we needed a test platform, and we just figured that would be the perfect test platform.
And let's see, that would have been Reagan would have been president at that time, right?
That's correct.
And how about the ultimate result of the invasion? What happened?
Well, we knew, at that point we knew how good our Black Hawk helicopters were with their silicone gears on board. Several of the aircraft had over 100 holes in them from the anti-aircraft fire that we received because they were waiting for us. There's nothing worse in the world than to think you have at least the element of surprise in an aircraft flying about 190 to 100 knots because of your armament on board, which isn't very fast in a helicopter, 10 to 50 feet off the ocean, depending on the swells. And we were monitoring the local radio station as our navigational fix, and the radio announcer came on, and here we're coming in with the element of surprise, the only thing we have on us in these low, slow helicopters. And the announcer says the invasion forces will be here in 5 minutes. Everyone take cover. That's a very sick feeling.
Oh, And you heard that yourself?
We heard it over our AM radios. That's correct.
And
over our ADF.
It was too late to abort the invasion, right?
Well, we were on radio silence. We got to go. We were gone.
So you walked into a trap.
Walked right into it because of that congressman who didn't think it was humane for a Cuban soldier to lose his life. Yet it was much more humane for an American soldier to lose his life and for that young American child to never know what it's like to have a father.
Well, let's hope that somebody out there listening to this show will come forward with this information. Now, we know we're being monitored, you know.
Oh, we know.
And by the way, do you have that recording with you?
I have it with me and ready whenever you want to do it.
Let's do it at the next break, right after the next break. So give your website out again, Chip.
Our website is the Black Ops Reporter. It's at http://members.aol.com/Chip Tatum, all small. And Chip Tatum is spelled CHIPTATUM. So http://members.aol.com/Chip Tatum.
And give your address out, how people can get a hold of you. Documentation that this man is for real, ladies and gentlemen.
Our documentation via the Tatum Chronicles is at 1-800-201-7892. The Nexus magazine carries the documentation. There's no doubt who I am. I'd like to know who you are. The Nexus can be ordered through 800-784-0745.
That's a great magazine. 800-784 what?
0745.
0745. I urge you folks to subscribe to that, folks.
It's a very good magazine. They bring some very good information forward.
I think that, the Spotlight, Media Bypass, and a few others, Perception, are the only ones that are really telling the American people what's going on in this country today.
And Nexus has to be published outside of the U.S. To bring the message that they do. And Duncan Rhodes, the editor of Nexus, has done a very fine job. He's very thorough with his investigations. As a matter of fact, the documents we had to provide, it took over 8 months to provide enough information for their legal staff to say, okay, let's go and let's see if somebody sues us for this. We'll take this to court in a heartbeat.
Chip, do you know anything about a gentleman named Bob White, who was a patriot, wrote a book, was assassinated down in Costa Rica, walking across the field with 2 other individuals? Do you know anything about him?
No, but I have a very good friend. When was that? When did that happen?
I don't know. I don't have the exact date. It would have been back in the 80s, I believe.
I had a very good friend, Robert White, who I flew with, and I've lost track of him. I wonder if it's the same.
Oh, I'm wondering. Okay, hold on a minute, folks. Be right back. Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. Wake up, America.
70587-5171. Oh, in the Denver metropolitan area, 1-303-654-9924. And now, back to Ted.
And we're back. My guest is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. And people are complaining because, I guess somebody's complaining because I haven't given my phone number out lately. My phone number is 702-650-5676. 702-650-5676. I urge you folks out there to call that number and obtain a list of all of my research. I have books, reports, videos, audios, and this is, as in the case with Chip, this documents the information that I have developed myself over the last 17 years, plus a combination of research, or through a combination of research, plus on-the-street investigation. So call 702-650-5676 and ask for my flyer and get it, order the material and the research, and learn about it, make copies, pass it on. Okay, we have a caller, Dennis from Florida. Hi, Dennis.
Hello, Ted.
How are you today?
Yep.
Where are you from in Florida?
Pretty good. Very nice.
Where are you from in
Well,
Florida?
right. Over near Sarasota.
Sarasota, okay.
I'm planning to be there in Orlando next week.
I'll see you then.
Hope to, and even if I'm not a vendor, I hope to be there.
Okay.
Hope to be a vendor, though.
Well, I'm going to participate in a roundtable discussion Friday night, and then I have a lecture Saturday morning, first thing.
Well, I hope I can take it in.
Well, I hope you can, too. I'm going to talk about the Oklahoma City bombing.
The question or the information I wanted to discuss was who ordered the Grenada attack or assault?
President Reagan ordered that assault.
Now, what I want to know is why is it that Bill Clinton isn't ordering the same thing for the opposite ends of the Panama Canal? Why isn't he ordering something like that for Castro? That's all against the Monroe Doctrine, is it not?
What are you talking about with Castro? I'm sorry.
Well, Castro is a communist regime that was set up in this hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine states that we're not to allow that. Remember, they said that there wouldn't be any...
It's very dangerous on our behalf to do anything to Castro. That's why we've left his island untouched as far as anything that we do. He has some items aimed right at a nuclear power plant at Turkey Point that we fear an attack on our side would probably cause him to do something like that in retaliation to us, and there's nothing we can do to defend against that.
Nuclear attack by Castro against us?
No, an attack against the nuclear power plant at Turkey Point. We put a nuclear power plant within small missile range of Castro.
Why don't Isn't that an acceptable risk?
That was, well, it depends on the people in South Florida. I don't think that they think that they're an acceptable risk or that they're acceptable.
So we roll over and play dead for the communists because of what they might do to us?
I don't think that there's much might about Mr. Castro.
Well, hey, we've put up with him far too long. I mean, that's a moot point at this juncture. That man should have been eliminated a long time ago, big time.
Well, they tried.
Hey, Ted, you've got Linda, the court reporter out of Denver, is on and ready.
Beg your pardon?
Linda is on the air.
Oh, Linda. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
that's all
Dennis.
I wanted to know.
Yeah, Linda or Lois? Oh, Linda, okay, Linda, I know who you're talking about. Okay, Linda, how are you doing?
Fine, I'm here.
In Denver at the Oklahoma City trial.
Yes, we're on the second day of the sentencing hearings.
Okay, give us your report.
Now, yesterday I was trying to tell you that they began the morning by having opening arguments, and the prosecution got to go first, and they were enjoying the conviction by being able to paint the picture that they had painted, and instead of saying, we believe this, that, and the other, they were able to say that McVeigh did purchase the fuel, he purchased the fertilizer, he did this and that, and
which they did not prove.
Well, of course, they didn't prove any of that. It was just amusing to see how the prosecution was having a good time turning their theory into fact.
Well, couldn't the defense object to that?
No, not at this stage. The conviction was done. So in other words, the jury has spoken. So that's what they said.
Okay.
So then what happened is they continued reading out of the Turner Diaries. They read us almost about 3 pages of it and said, this is the malicious intent. This proves the malicious intent that McVeigh employed, which is an element necessary for the death sentence. And I thought that was amusing, that reading a book, could be used as proving a necessary element for the death penalty. Well, then the prosecution continued to describe how the bomb shattered everything in its path, and he was trying to outrage the jury again. And that brought a question to my mind because the experts had said that the info bomb will destroy everything by center and measuring everything and exploding everything in a equal direction. So why did the axle go down instead of flying up in the air and down from the top?
Right.
So anyway, they continued on with all of the scenario, and then they brought on their witnesses, and the witnesses were the victims. And it was very difficult. Obviously, there's nobody's heart that's not going to be affected when somebody comes in and cries about losing their husband or their son or their father. And the killer was the videotaping of a little 4-year-old boy who had physical therapy. And the physical therapy showed this little child paralyzed or partially paralyzed, which they're trying to repair, on the left side of his body. And he was just adorable. Everybody was upset. And I looked over at McVeigh to see what was happening. And he kept his back to the audience the whole time and kept his hands up to his face most of the time. And he stared at the American flag behind the judge in order to avoid eye contact with anybody or anything. But as prone to men who don't want to cry, he turned white and he got these red blotches on his cheeks. So that's how I knew he was in distress, as we all were watching this. And at the end of the day, the judge thought that the defense was going to take over, and they didn't. What happened is the United States said, no, we've got a whole parade more or people to get on the stand. So they are continuing today. Chuck's over at the courthouse watching more victims testify. And the defense is supposed to put on their opening arguments this afternoon, and we'll have McVeigh's family on Friday tomorrow.
Okay, excellent, Linda. Anything else you'd like to comment on?
No, I'm predicting that the jury is going to be merciless in this. I saw a juror, an older woman who everyone's commented on because she's often made eye contact with the victims in the pews. And I was sitting with the victims by mistake yesterday, and she once again looked over at the victims, and she was nodding, making eye contact with each of them and nodding. She came to me, and I just stared at her because I felt that my heart is touched over the victims, but I'm annoyed that the real killer hasn't been found. And she was extremely hostile with me because she wasn't getting the response from me that she was expecting. I just found it chilling to make eye contact with this juror who has as much venom for McVeigh as he's being accused of having for the federal government that killed the people in Waco. It just seems such a contradiction.
Okay, Linda, listen, thanks for your report, dear. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, bye-bye.
Be right back, folks.
Are you tired of diets and do you want something that really works? Well, a breakthrough has been made. You can now lose body fat and increase your endurance even without dieting or exercise. No, you're not dreaming. I repeat, you can now lose body fat and increase your endurance even without exercise or dieting with Pyruvate Plus. After 27 years of thorough testing with no dangerous side effects, Pyruvate Plus has been proven to burn body fat while leaving muscle tissue alone. Lowers your cholesterol and gives you increased endurance, and if you do exercise and eat sensibly, look out, results could even be better. Stop the yo-yo dieting, forget liposuction. Pyruvate Plus really does work. Call 1-800-205-6245 for safe, effective weight loss and increased endurance. That's 1-800-205-6245. Pyruvate Plus is not available in stores. Call us now, 1-800-205-6245 for the weight loss breakthrough that is sweeping the nation. Pyruvate Plus.
The Patriot Trading Group is the American Freedom Network's only choice for gold and silver. We strive to bring you truth and honesty with both talk shows and advertisers. This is why we have chosen the Patriot Trading Group as the only gold and silver dealer to appear on the American Freedom Network. I'm Don Wiedemann, president of the American Freedom Network. Give the Patriot Trading Group a call today at 1-800-951-0592 and become another satisfied customer of the Patriot Trading Group.
This is Tim Kern, and I'd like you to read a new book I helped put together. It's called The American Fight to Survive, How to Organize, Survive, and Fight for the Coming Constitutional Restoration. Gunnery Sergeant Red Smith, a Marine Corps sniper and survival trainer, has put decades of his experience into a truly informative book. Order The American Fight to Survive from the American Freedom Network, 1-800-205-6245. It's $25. You can use 85% of what's there right away, and I pray you'll never need the other 15%.
The views expressed on this show are those of the persons on the air only, and not necessarily those of this station, its management, or advertisers.
Okay, and we're back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA Black Ops and the man who's telling it all. Okay, we have two callers on the line. Lois from Utah. Hi, Lois.
Hi, Ted. Such a great show. Chip, I'm calling to find out the status of your attempted debate with Ollie North. Have you been able to contact him?
No, haven't tried. I don't want to talk to him unless he wants to talk to me. You know, I shouldn't say I don't want to talk to him.
Well, do you remember
all of us have our own agenda in life, and after what he's done to me, there are no words that we need to speak any longer.
Well, do you remember the proposal on the Lou Apton show that the two of you come on Lou's show and debate whether or not he was smuggling drugs into the U.S.?
Sure, and we gave them the telephone number for Mr. North.
Oh, you gave them the number.
Right.
So it's up to them.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and I'll be happy to be there. My direct goal in life is to see Mr. North prosecuted.
Well, so are you willing to debate if he'll agree to it?
Absolutely.
Still? Okay, somebody needs to, call him on the carpet for that. Speaking of Grenada, it seems like I remember that, at least for the timing of that, it was to deflect criticism from the Marine barracks explosion in Beirut. You remember that?
I do remember it, but
it happened like the day before, and Reagan was taking, it was horrible, and he was taking a lot of criticism for having the Marines over there in the first place. So all of a sudden, he has this successful attack of Grenada.
But we were, it's hard to say that because we were on ships for 3 days, before we even attacked, so that happened while we were...
So you were ready for 3 days?
Right.
So that could imply that even the U.S. knew that attack was going to happen at the barracks. We know the Israelis knew it was going to happen, and they didn't do anything.
It could imply a lot of things, because 2 weeks before we were actually preparing for it. It's just a matter of them deciding when the final day was.
Right, so like they had it ready in case they needed a big event. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Lois, for calling.
Bye.
And B, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Hi, B. Can you make it real short, because we got some things we have to cover before the top of the hour.
Yes, very short. I look forward to hearing the tape that Chip has. Chip, thank you so much for everything. How is your wife doing? She's no longer involved in this. She just has 3 years probation.
They took the ankle bracelet off. She's out of the halfway house and has the ankle bracelet off. As a matter of fact, her attorney called her today and said on the 24th, the appeals court has said that they would like a brief of June. So we'll see. Yes, at this point she's on 3 years probation. I assume that after the appeals court gets their brief filed, that'll be taken away also.
Right. Well, let us know how we can help.
Sure will.
For all you're doing.
Thank you, B.
Ted, have you talked to Hoppy Heidelberg yet? Do you have his phone number?
Well, not in the last few days, but I've had him on this show in the past.
But do you know the list of witnesses? Because he can talk to you about that, so that when you give your expo talk, you can list them, because they can't speak for themselves, because they've all been suicided.
No, I haven't talked to Hoppy. Does Hoppy have that information?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I'll check that out.
And you have his phone number?
Yes, I've got it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, B. Okay, Chip, let's go back to this tape now. What was the date that this show was aired? It was on this show, Ted Gunderson Intelligence.
It was on this show. I'm not sure what the date was. It's in the tape, farther forward in the tape, so I didn't write it down. But we did find that as we investigated it, we found that the broadcast from Radio Austria, which was used to jam your signal while I was on with you, the broadcast was actually broadcast 2 days prior, so someone had recorded it and in turn rebroadcast it with an adaptation over your broadcast to block our conversation over shortwave of the OSGs.
Now, that's interesting, because I've been told by the officials at WWCR, which is the Worldwide Christian Radio out of Nashville, that it's not possible to jam my broadcast. But
I don't know if it's possible, but I can tell you something about HF transmissions, and the shortwave is HF. The stronger signal wins.
And they have a stronger signal than WWCR, is what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that I know that if we needed something put out, I've worked in communication facilities with the government before that we could literally speak around the world, and a few seconds later give a test count a few seconds later, hear our voices as our voice has gone all the way around the world.
Now, this particular broadcast was on for how long at one of our shows?
It was about a 30-minute broadcast. The reporter or the person who sent it to us, he came on the air with us, Ted, if you'll recall.
Right, I remember. And it was a 30 minutes. So in other words, on 30 minutes of the show, the second hour with WWCR, we were blanked out. Was that be all over the country or in just certain areas?
No, it was, well, I don't know whether it was all over the country. It depends on where the transmitter that was transmitting this was. It may have just been up in the northeast that it was blanked out, and it was actually overpowered.
We were overpowered, in other words.
That's correct.
Okay, play the tape. The portion of the tape, that is.
Aboard Air Force One. But I never did find him, and the CIA said, son, you'll never be a hero. Your flying days are done. It's time for you to go home now. Stop sniffing that smoking gun.
And it keeps going.
You'll never be a hero. Your flying days are done. It's time for you to go home and stop sniffing the smoking gun. Right?
That's what it said.
And it's on this show. They jammed this show for 30 minutes. That was just a portion of it. And do you think that was by accident, Jeff?
I think it was very premeditated.
I do ask silly questions sometimes, don't I? Well, I'll tell you what, they're wrong about many things. And one area they're wrong about is you are a hero. You're more of a hero today than you have ever been. So take heed, you folks who are monitoring this show. We care less about what you think or what you do. I'm going to continue. I know Chip will continue now on. So, where do we go from here? Okay, Chip, we have about 4 more minutes after this break. Be right back, folks. Wake up, America. Wake up.
And now, here's Ted.
My guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA Black Ops. And we have a caller on the line, John from Denver. Hi, John.
Hi, gentlemen. Two quick questions. Can you put on email the words to that song, Chip?
Sure, I'll have Nancy pull it off this evening and put the words on.
Okay. Then the other thing is there a chance that I know you can only go in 14 counties or something like that. Is that correct?
11.
11. Is Orlando one of the places you could go? Because could you go to the expo?
I could, yes.
Well, that's great.
Speak there, and I'm sure, Ted, you're going to be there, right?
I'll be there. Chip, I will call Dan Chiddock in Utah and arrange for you to be there if you're interested.
I'd like to go, Ted.
Oh, that's great.
When is that? I'm sorry.
It's the 13th. It starts the 13th, 14th, and 15th. I'm going to be there the night of the 13th for Roundtable Discussion, Oklahoma City, and then I have a lecture that morning, the first thing in the morning on the 14th.
Well, I'm about 45 minutes from there.
Oh, fantastic.
I think it would be great, Chip, if you could speak out in public like that. God bless you, man.
Yeah, great. Thanks for calling, John. Okay, Chip, give out your address and your email again for those folks who did not get it earlier in the show.
Book order line, folks, is 1-800-201-7892. 800-201-7892. If you'd like to talk to me or discuss anything that you've heard, you can get a hold of me through 352-330-1652. It's 352-330-1652. Our website is http://members.aol.com/Chip Tatum. That's spelled CHIPTATUM, and it's all lowercase. Members.aol.com/Chip Tatum. So that's the Black Ops Reporter website, and I think you'll find some very interesting information there.
Hey, Ted, you got a Canadian caller, Cheryl.
Cheryl, okay, Cheryl, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, Ted. Quick question here. Regarding the Oklahoma City bombing trial, I read the transcript that was on the Internet of the closing arguments. What do you really think of the defense job? I personally, from reading Stephen Jones' comments, I just thought he was grandstanding a bit, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in his remarks or how he was presenting the whole thing.
Cheryl, I will give you my honest opinion. I think that the whole matter has been fixed right from the beginning. And as far as Stephen Jones is concerned, I said this on the show before. When I heard they were going to tear the building down overnight, I did everything I could to keep it up. John DeCamp contacted him and with the thought in mind of having a hearing to keep the building up. Stephen Jones told John DeCamp, back off, I'll take care of the hearing. There never was a hearing. Okay?
So it's phony.
That's what I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that this report will go along those lines too, Ted, that I'm getting ready to release.
And Chip, what I'd like to have you do is appear on. I have to give a speech, a lecture on the morning of the 14th. Why don't you just come up there and we'll lecture together?
Okay, Ted.
So you'll have the information about the bombing by that time. It'll be released this coming week. Okay, folks. My phone number is 702-650-5676. Call, get your flyer, find out about my research also. Make copies, educate, get it out to your friends. Also, don't forget to send me some money for this letter that I'm sending out to the former FBI agents around the country, 7,000 plus. I need your support on this badly. We have over $1,700 we have to raise about $4,000. For those of you who cannot afford an attorney, call 702-650-5676. We'll put you into a self-taught course, Irwin Rommel School of Law, and you'll be able to represent yourself. See you tomorrow, folks. Thanks a lot, Chip. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report with former FBI Chief Ted L. Gunderson. Our address is the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report, P.O. Box 18,000-259, Las Vegas, Nevada, zip 89114.
The American Freedom Network can now be heard at a computer near you. Check it out. www.amerifree.com. www.
Time 24. And now, here's Ted.
And good morning to all you beautiful people out there across this great land of ours, the United States of America. Welcome to the Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. We have back with us Chip Tatum for another series, the second in a series of interviews concerning CIA operations. And before I get into Chip, let me remind you, I'm doing this on every hour, on the hour until June the 9th. Let me remind you of the American Heritage River Initiative. The purpose of this initiative for Mr. Clinton is to designate 10 chosen rivers by the fall of 1997, 10 more later, following years, and so on and so forth. Now, there's a waiting period for our comments. That waiting period deadline is June the 9th. So we have until now to June the 9th to complain about this situation. It's a takeover of another takeover of our land. Now, what I want you to do, I've gone through this in details in the last couple of days, but I'm going to kind of brief it right now. Write or to request written information and an extension of the comment period. The comment period is up until June the 9th, as I said. To the Executive Office of the President, Kathleen McGinty, ATHLEENMCGINTY, Council on Environmental Quality, Washington, D.C., 20503, and at the same time, phone Karen Hobbs, HOBBS, 202-395-5750. You'll take the request. Or fax Kathleen McGinty, 202-456-2710. All right back, email your state congressman and your senators. Request them to seek an extension of the comment period for the Federal Registry notice. best them for their interpretation and position of the American Rivers Heritage Initiative. Keep calling, writing, faxing, and emailing until something is done to stop this initiative. It's just another candy-coated carrot of a land grab, folks. Okay. Welcome back, Chip Tatum. Chip, how are you today?
Doing good, Ted. Thank you.
Good. And, folks, now Chip Tatum, for those of you who've never heard this show before, is a Vietnam Special Forces Air Combat Controller, 25-year CIA Chief Cover Agent, U.S. Army pilot flying classified missions during the U.S. invasion of Grenada, Iran-Contra pilot flying cocaine shipments labeled as medical supplies, member of the ultra-secret international G7-run Pegasus HIP team, and from sensitive, highly secretive Special Forces covert operations in Cambodia to wandering CIA assets through to Black Ops activities in Grenada and Ollie North Iran-Contra enterprise, as well as membership in an international hit team. Gene Chip Tatum has seen it all, done it all, and is now telling it all. Chip, we missed you yesterday. We had the Indian chief from one of the nations out west on the show, and but we're back, and I'd like to start out today, and I'd like to spend as much detail as I can on the Prime Minister of Sweden's murder, assassination. Can you tell us what you know about that? What year was that, first of all?
Pardon me?
What year was that?
I believe it was 1986, around January of 86. You're taxing my brain because it was before I was recruited into the OSG. However, during a meeting, some of what happened was relayed to me. I understand that we used a South African asset by the name of Williamson. He owed some favors to us. He then took the bull by the horns, more or less, and saw to it that Olaf Palm was assassinated. The details around that were very simple. Ollie North approached Palm, Sweden. There was a large arms manufacturer involved in it. The name escapes me, though. I'm not sure what the manufacturer's name was. I would probably know it if I heard it. The manufacturer, Ollie North, on behalf of the manufacturer and on behalf of his enterprise plan, needed end-user certificates. They decided that Sweden, because of this arms manufacturer, would be a perfect arena to run the end-user certificates, provide them to the different entities that their arms dealing needed. Laid the whole plan out. Palme, and if had North done his homework, he would have found out that Palme would not stand for this type of corruption. Not for his country and not on an international basis. He didn't do his homework, charged ahead with his head down like a bull, and when Palme turned him down, all the cards were on the table. I understand the Prime Minister threatened to go to the world courts, and within weeks he wasn't with us any longer.
Well, now, when you say end-user certificate, and he laid out all the plans, can you give us details on that?
I know on the weapons side, I wasn't that involved in weapons, but I know that certain weapons need end-user certificates. In other words, to be sold by these defense arenas and by arms dealers. They have a paperwork trail that they have to have, and with that paperwork trail, anytime a weapon is picked up on the battlefield, there's a registration number on that weapon, and that can be traced to people who last registered that weapon. Just like if you go down to Ace Hardware store and buy a shotgun, that end-user certificate, what you're filing, can be traced to you. On a broader basis, we have something along those lines with our higher class weapons.
Now, so when you talk about weapons and end-user certificate, Ollie North went in, Palme, and wanted him personally set up an operation in Sweden to provide an end-user certificate. Provide an end-user, And in so doing, would that have meant that any weapons could have been shipped into Sweden or through Sweden and drop shipped elsewhere?
They probably never would have been in the country itself. However, those weapons would be registered as an end user for the Swedish government.
Okay, be right back. Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. Wake up, America, wake up.
This is one of the stages talking about the reality of existence of their thinking. I believe that it would likely fail in the Senate, not for lack of evidence, because many members of the U.S. Senate are politically compromised. You cannot depend on them to do the work they've been charged to do. From 4 to 5, Eric Peterstrom of Patriot Trading Group will be on again. Tune in, and thank you for listening.
Tired of your shortwave radio acting up or breaking down? You need a Sangean shortwave radio. The Sangean line of shortwave is simply the best, and the American Freedom Network has them. For a basic, full-frequency shortwave, try an ATS 808 for $119.99 plus shipping. For a shortwave with sideband adjustment for listening to ham radio, choose the ATS 818 for $159.99 plus shipping, or the ATS 818CS that has a time tape recorder for $199.99 plus shipping. But if you want the best radio out there, we offer the Sangean ATS 909. This state-of-the-art radio has AM, FM, long wave, the full shortwave spectrum, as well as digital sideband adjustment using the highest quality components. Along with other features, the 909 is a great value for only $274.99 plus shipping. So order yours today at 1-800-205-6245. That's the Sangean line of shortwave radio is available at the American Freedom Network at 1-800-205-6245.
Wear with pride and make a statement. It's your Freedom Let It Ring t-shirt, and it's absolutely free. That's right, free. By joining the American Freedom Network today for $33, get the next 12 exciting issues of the American Freedom Magazine and your free t-shirt. Renew your subscription, extend it, or join today for your Freedom Let It Ring t-shirt. That's $33 to join today. Then check for money orders to P.O. Box 430, Johnstown, Colorado, 80534, or call 1-800-205-6245. That's 1-800-205-6245.
And we're back, and my guest today is Gene Chip Tatum, 25-year TIA Chief Cover Agent. Going back to Sweden and Mr. Palme, the Prime Minister of Sweden. So what you're saying is what they wanted to set up a phony operation whereby if the weapons were traced, they would be traced back to Sweden. Is that what the end user means?
That's what the end user means, and the problem is it's not a phony corporation or not a phony entity. An end user certificate through a country that country is liable for the use of those weapons. That's why Palme, not knowing where in the world this United States Marine, this guy from the United States was proposing to send all this stuff, didn't want he or his country involved.
And was Ollie North at that time an officer in the Marines?
He was I'm not sure whether he was a major or lieutenant colonel. I believe he was a lieutenant colonel at that particular time.
And so this had to do with the Iran-Contra?
It was 1986, yes.
So it had to do with Iran-Contra. Then can we assume that Ollie North maybe went around to other countries and did the same thing?
You can absolutely assume that because the end user certificates had to be through particular countries. I know we used Chile as one, Argentina, China. We used several countries around the world providing end user certificates. I know China supplied several missiles, I think SA-7s, to Ollie to be sent into Nicaragua to the Contras. However, those missiles never made it to the Contras.
What does that mean?
It means that there was over 100 ground-to-air missiles, shoulder-held, that are missing today.
So, it could be in civilians' hands or it could be in terrorist hands.
It could be in whoever's hands Mr. North decided to sell them to and put the money in his pocket. That's what I think.
Very interesting. Why haven't we indicted Ollie North? That's a silly question.
Yeah.
Forget it. I know. I know the answer to that one without even asking. Excuse me, folks. Is there anything more that we can say about Mr. Palme? How about the Swedish people? Are they aware of this?
I have no idea. I would think they would be aware of this. There's been people out there saying, "Hey, look at the Bush administration. Look at Ollie North. Look at what he was trying to do." And all of a sudden, Bofors. That's the name of the company, I believe. Look at Bofors arms company. What's going on here? Is this why your prime minister was killed? I have no idea. But if I were the Swedes, I'd be raising some heck.
Now, Bofors Arm, where are they located?
I don't know.
But they are an
European
arms
company.
Arms company, huh? Well, this is a terrible thing. What about the murder of the waiter in Norway? That was kind of an interesting incident, also, wasn't it?
Oh, that was simply a mistake. My Ferrari Mossad officer, codenamed Cobra, pulled the trigger on the wrong guy. He was reprimanded for it. Subsequently, ended up retiring and going to Panama to work for General Noriega.
Do you want to start in the beginning of that little incident and tell us what happened there?
I don't know a lot about it. I heard from other intelligence sources, other Mossad friends, that he really messed up.
Yeah, why were they after him? What mistaken identity? Who do they think he was?
I don't know. I don't know who his target was. All I know is that when he pulled the trigger on an innocent waiter, killed him by mistake. It could be that the target was sitting behind the waiter or anything. Who knows? He just hit the wrong person when he fired.
And do you know the reason he was supposed to have killed somebody other than the waiter?
I never asked that. Unless it's volunteered to me and unless it's something I need to know, I learned a long time ago you just don't get into it.
And that's another reason you're alive, of course.
You have to watch your P's and Q's in the business and understand etiquette.
Right. And I guess are the Norwegian? Do you know if the Norwegian people are aware of the mistake that was made there, or if they're aware of the situation?
I believe so. That's pretty. I believe that's pretty popular knowledge now. Because I don't read a lot, and I don't read a lot because I don't like to contaminate myself with what's been written in the media. So.
Well, you sure can do that, I'll tell you right now. I noticed in watching ABC News last night, Peter Jennings, I never saw so much propaganda in my life. Just plain disinformation. Unbelievable. In fact, he talked about how the Gulf War syndrome was not a problem, that had nothing to do with our boys being ill, and there's no indication that the children of the boys who came back from the Gulf War are any sicker than the children of people who did not go to the Gulf War.
And I think one point we need to bring out here is there needs to be a news network to keep after the news network. Someone who's out there saying this is why the news isn't being said, and someone bringing actual news and talking about and evaluating the quality of the news that is brought to us. There are so many people out there today who are tired of listening to these major media sources who are owned by a dozen corporations. In total, they're tired of hearing it. And instead of saying newscaster, Peter Jennings, they need to say the Canadian newscaster, Peter Jennings. He's not an American.
Chip, he mentioned the Bofors company. Wasn't that the company that was involved in also partly responsible for Soviets obtaining the submarines that make no noise, they're totally silent, you can't detect them?
I don't know, Ted. I don't know what their forte is.
Yeah,
I recall that the name, you know how sometimes your brain just dies, operational head errors,
Well, the story I recall was there was a Norwegian company combined with Toshiba, and time for a quick break, folks. Be right back. Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. Wake up, America.
From the Patriot Trading Group. Are you paying huge commissions to pay for your gold and silver brokers, Mercedes-Benz? Are you getting lightning fast delivery and fair prices? Then call Patriot Trading Group at 1-800-951-0592. The Patriot Trading Group offers all forms of gold and silver, shipped and delivered in the utmost privacy at the most competitive prices in the country. Nobody does it better. Call 1-800-951-0592. We'll be happy to quote your prices or send you out a free brochure, no questions asked. It's a no-brainer. We also offer full-service, penalty-free gold and silver IRA conversions. Believe me, it pays to compare. Why pay more? Here at the Patriot Trading Group, we'll treat you like we'd like to be treated ourselves. You have my word on it. I'm Eric Cedarstrom, CEO, shipping clerk, and janitor at the Patriot Trading Group. Call 1-800-951-0592. That's the Patriot Trading Group, 1-800-951-0592.
The American Freedom Network is proud to present a new program, The Jack McClam Hour. Hosted by former Arizona police officer Jack McClam. If you miss this program, you will be missing out. Starting at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, The Jack McClam Hour, only on the American Freedom Network. That's Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, The Jack McClam Hour. Don't miss it, or you'll miss out.
If you're looking for the perfect gift for your fisherman, hunter, or backpacker, the Canadyne Pocket Filter, Combat Filter, or Mini Filters are the most reliable water filters for removing bacteria, such as Giardia and Cryptosporidium, commonly found in most streams and rivers. These Canadyne filters are available through the American Freedom Network. Subscribe to the American Freedom magazine and receive all the information on Canadyne or any of the other quality products. Call for more information at 1-800-205-6245. That's 1-800-205-6245. Knowledge is power. To order a cassette copy of this program, call 1-800-205-6245. That's 1-800-205-6245.
And now, here's Ted.
And we're back. My guest today, again, is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA Deep Cover agent. Chip, let's go back just very briefly to Olaf Palme's assassination. You say you learned about this in a meeting, a subsequent meeting from the date of the assassination?
And I joined operational subgroups in about April of 1986, and this particular assassination happened in January of 1986. So North's meeting had to be with him, should have been somewhere prior to then. It would be interesting to investigate that to see whether there was a meeting.
And but how did you learn about it?
In an OSD meeting. When I was briefed, I went to Washington, where I was in brief, given my security codes, and moved on to my assignment. And while I was there, I heard about it.
Well, you mean heard about it over a cup of coffee, or did they officially told you that?
No, over a cup of coffee. It's not going to be an official statement from them.
Right, with you guys. Now, OSD again means
operational subgroup.
And that's an elite group of individuals who are involved in some very sensitive operations. Right?
A lot of people refer to it as the President's intelligence agency, his own little personal. And
right.
That's what the Vice President had for himself.
This little toy that he had there.
More than a toy, a very dangerous toy.
Yes, obviously. I'll tell you what I recall now is the Toshiba company and the Kongsberg company of Norway, Toshiba of Japan and Kongsberg of Norway, and they had a computer that drove the lathe, and they sold it to the Soviets without apparently the knowledge of the U.S. and others, and allowed the Soviets to make a silent submarine. And the Norwegian government, when they found out about this, they came in and closed down the Kongsberg company. Do you recall anything about that?
No, I don't.
And I was told this may have had something to do with Olaf Palme's death, but I don't know. Anyway, we'll see what happens there. What about some of these other matters? You say you don't know anything more about the assassination of the waiter in Norway. What about McVeigh and Oklahoma City? Do you have any knowledge of that? What's your take on that, Jeff?
Well, I believe that there's no doubt that there was involvement, complicity by McVeigh of some sort. I don't think that there's anyone in America that doubts that. I do believe however, that his partners were more involved than he was.
Do you think there's more than one partner?
I have reason to believe that there are more than one partner, yes.
You have reason, or do you have any information intelligence-wise?
I have an intelligence report that tells me that, and I have done personal investigation, and have statements by other entities that I have personally verified their veracity.
And you say you're going to release that when?
June 7th.
Well,
what's that, Saturday?
June the 7th, that's this Saturday.
The person providing the information wanted to be safely back underground before I released it, so that's what I'm waiting on.
Well, once we have you back on the show, then I'm going to have to change it around and have you back on the show on first part of next week, then, I guess, huh?
No, I'll be available.
You will be available, okay. We'll bring you right back on the show. Chip, again, why don't you repeat your name, address? People don't need your name, but your address, where people can obtain the documentation. I've been challenged as to your credibility. Not challenged, but that, how do we know this man has credibility? And I told him all you have to do is read this Nexus article, which was April of May 1997. And tell them how they can get a hold of your records and your reports and so forth.
A copy of our documents are available at 1-800-201-7892, 800-201-7892, extension 58. That's the Tatum Chronicles. The Tatum Chronicles are DoD flight plans, government forms, which were obtained from a foreign government, which we had filed as special operations officers in 1985. As far as my credibility, even the federal courts and the U.S. Department of Justice doesn't dispute who I am. They're the ones that came forward at the beginning of my trial and filed the Classified Information Procedures Act notification stating that I would never be able to use any of my information on the stand. They're the ones that initiated that, not me.
Okay. And your reports show what? The flight plans on the back.
The flight plans and so forth show who was flying in the aircraft with us, what our cargoes were, and where they were obtained, and what the actual events going on in these types of camps consisted of.
Okay, be right back, folks. Time for a quick break. That Gunderson Intelligence Report, no question about it. Wake up, America, wake up. Chip Tatum, 25 years CIA deep cover agent. By the way, folks, all of you folks there in Las Vegas, and this is being heard on KKVV in Las Vegas, need to remember that on June the 14th and 15th, the Erwin Rommel School of Law will hold a seminar, tell you how, and give you experience if you want to take the course to sue or defend yourself. You can avoid an attorney. They have videos, they have books, they have all kinds of basic material and research data that will help you in your personal lawsuit. I know many of us cannot afford to hire lawyers. I mean, when you're paying $150 to $250 an hour for somebody's services, it's just beyond comprehension as to the average person being able to afford it. So you can take your own law course here. You can learn how to handle yourself in the courtroom. These people also help you in preparing your paper. The Erwin Rommel School of Law, 23 years experience, will teach you how to sue or defend. Seminar in Las Vegas, 14th and 15th. Call 702-650-5676. By the way, Chip, we would like to have you on the show this coming Wednesday, the 11th, and we can talk about McVeigh at that time.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so you folks put it on your calendar, and we'll have Chip to go back tomorrow and again next Wednesday. Chip, does the name Zen Air mean anything to you?
Zenith?
Yes.
It's quite a bit. It's a pretty large outfit nationwide, and its connections to covert operations and black operations are yet to be determined, but I believe in the very near future, some good investigators are out there are about to break something on it.
Okay, and are you having anything to do with that?
I passed the name on for some people to look into. I'm not in a position at this time to leave the area that I'm currently living in because of the feds, and they're doing that.
Okay, Gina, they're involved in Mena, Arkansas?
I don't know if they're involved in Mena, Arkansas. They're in the area. They definitely have aircraft in Arkansas, Mexico, Missouri, around the country. They have aircraft that are configured in particular configurations, which would make them suspect for small cargo aircraft with long-range capabilities.
You talking about a CIA deep cover operation?
That's correct.
Yeah, how about are they tied into
or other deep cover operations, not necessarily CIA?
What would other be?
It could be any of the international groups who are operating in the United States.
It could be the British. It could be MI6, right?
It could be the OSGs.
It could be Turkey. It could be Argentina. Any of them.
Any of them. And believe me, folks, we have a lot of them operating here.
Mossad. Mm-hmm. And but they're operating in conjunction with and in cooperation with CIA, aren't they?
And large corporations in the United States, yes.
And large corporations. Can you name some of the corporations?
Well, I think it would be pretty safe to mention the name DuPont. Some of the financial backers for a lot of what's being done by black operations. Then naturally we have large families who are involved. Another family involved through the Xerox Corporation is the Wilson family.
And Rockefeller, of course, their name always top of the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And any other families or companies you'd like to mention?
I think that should do it for here. You know, there are foreign families and companies, but let's stick with the home front, folks. That's where we need to be concerned with.
Yeah. And, of course, we talked about Henry Hyde before, who was the congressman from Illinois, is the congressman from Illinois who handles the black ops money computers and keeps track of all the expenses and so forth, right?
And that being done through his banking interest, that's correct.
His banking interest in Chicago?
Around the U.S.
Around the U.S. Henry Hyde, congressman, Chicago, Illinois. By the way, I sent the series of the last tapes to Mr. former Congressman Bill Dennemeyer in California, Fullerton, California, who in a speech or lecture last summer described his best friend as Henry Hyde, and I let Bill Dennemeyer know about that. So we are making some progress here. By the way, I made a mistake on one of the tapes. I was listening to the tape. I'm recording these tapes now, folks, myself, and I mentioned Henry Wade instead of Henry Hyde. Henry Wade is a former district attorney in Dallas, Texas, a good friend of mine. He was not involved, and has not been involved, to my knowledge, in any of these black ops operations. I made a mistake. If you pick it up on the tape, it's Henry Hyde, not Henry Wade. How about the Gambino family and the Mafia? And Jim Thompson, former governor of Illinois, activity in the Chicago area, Lansing, Illinois, small airport outside of Chicago, etc. Anything on that?
No, I don't. I'm very aware of the use of FBI officials up in the Des Moines area and on over into the Montana area, North Dakota area, in corrupting public officials into allowing particular racketeering activities to go on, which include murder and include drug trafficking. So that's very prevalent up there, and it's a big problem, and I think it's being discussed in the Montana Senate as we speak today.
How about Nebraska? Are you familiar with the Franklin cover-up case in Nebraska?
I'm not, Ted. I've heard little spatterings of it here and there, but I'm really not that familiar with it up there.
Yes, well, because out of the Nebraska case, we had the kidnapping of the young 12-year-old newspaper boy in Des Moines, Johnny Goss, and I know that there was conversation with the FBI in Des Moines, Iowa, about the Johnny Goss kidnapping, And there's some concern about the fact that they have refused, the FBI in Des Moines, Iowa, refused to properly investigate that matter. Not surprised me. And that's when you mentioned Des Moines, Iowa, it's kind of red flag up as far as I'm concerned.
Well, there's direct involvement with officials in Des Moines, FBI officials in Des Moines, with a man in South Florida who is a senior FBI official and was a former member of the South Florida Drug Task Force and maybe currently a member of it. His name is Terry Nelson. And there's some direct implications there. And I think there needs to be concern on the people's part up there that they'll get an honest rendering for their money from the officials with the FBI in that area.
Well, can you name names in Des Moines?
I can't. Not at this point, no.
You know, there's a U.S. senator that's been very critical of the Bureau recently. And, in fact, Director Free was on stand yesterday for one of the congressional committees, and he was very adamant about the FBI involved in corruption, cover-up, and so forth.
You know, and if an arms dealer, what is it, Class 1 arms dealer, automatic weapons, had a vehicle filled with the type of weapons that these FBI agents had, I guess in Memphis, in their SWAT vehicle, and allowed those to be taken, they would be up in front, practically in front of a firing squad with the ATF, allowing that to happen. Free stands up and says we're looking into making some changes in our policy. Come on.
We better hurry, huh? Yeah. Okay, be right back, folks. Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. No question about it. Wake up, America. And we're back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA operative, Black Ops. Chip, that congressman, it's not a congressman, Senator Charles Grassley from Iowa, Republican Iowa. Are you familiar with him and his criticism of the FBI?
No, I'm not, Ted.
Yeah. Well, I think he'd be upset about the possibility that there's people in Des Moines, Iowa, were tied into, was it Terry Nelson, you say?
Uh-huh. Good, investigate him. That's all I'm asking. Listen, people, investigate these people. Don't let them go unchecked and do the things that they're doing.
Can you give us any more details about the corrupt operation of the FBI in Des Moines, Iowa?
Only that some of the collateral investigations, the fringe investigations being done, involve some FBI agents out of Des Moines. The investigations now these are investigations by the FBI of things going on over across and into Montana and North Dakota. And these FBI agents are involved in those investigations and possibly are part of a cover-up.
You mean the current FBI agents in Des Moines, Iowa are actually investigating themselves?
No, they're investigating events in the Montana and North Dakota area of operations on some possible border infringements with trafficking.
And Terry Nelson being implicated there, and they're covering it up. Is that what you're saying?
Not only covering it up, they may be the people that Terry uses to interface with their people in Montana and North Dakota, and that's why no investigation will ever go anywhere.
Well, and more cover-up. You know, I have been actively involved with John DeCamp in the Nebraska case, and developed information, of course, that they were kidnapping children in Des Moines, also up in Sioux City, Iowa, and around the Midwest, and Paul Benassi, one of the kids that came forward and volunteered to furnish information, has told us, and I've said this on our show before, and I think you were there when I told you, when I mentioned that we used to decoy public places in order to attract kids over, and then the adults would grab the car, but not jump on top of them, when he was 10, 11, 12 years old. And I've written a letter to the FBI, I've written a letter to the Attorney General of the United States, William Barr, mentioned in one of our previous conversations, and also to the governor of the state of Nebraska and the attorney general of the state of Nebraska. And I've said, hey, don't take my word for it. Just come on over and talk to me, and I'll give you my sources. And, they wrote back that, well, your sources aren't credible, although they don't know who my sources are. And number two, another letter I received out of the four, only two, by the way, that I received out of the four letters I wrote, your information is not documented. And it's immediately documented, and I have been ignored. This is years ago. When I say years ago, back in 93, 94 at the latest. And this had to do with the Johnny Gotch case in Iowa.
Well, you understand the possible deniability there, Ted. If they don't talk to you, if they don't get that information, they don't have to act upon it.
Well, of course I do. And, on the Oklahoma City bombing, I contacted the FBI and Senator our inspector's committee because I have a 150-page report, by the way, that is available, folks, if you want to send $20 to Ted Gunderson Post Office Box 18,000-59 Las Vegas, Nevada, 39109. I have a 150-page report, which I didn't make the 150 pages available to the FBI, but at the initial stage of the investigation, and right after the bombing, I had information that was very significant and very important and very matter of extreme importance to the investigation. Contacted the FBI, and I've never heard from them since then. They won't come interview me. What they're afraid I'll do is put a tape recorder on the desk and start talking about the kidnapping cases, which they have jurisdiction over, and other matters which they are totally ignoring. By the way, the FBI has planted people on me, Jeff, and tried to disrupt my operation. When I ran for the presidency in the primaries against Clinton last time in Hampton, Texas, they planted a man in my office. And then when I came back from the primaries and ran for U.S. Congress in Las Vegas, they planted a man in my office. And I'm talking right now to the FBI in Las Vegas. I wrote a letter to the U.S. Attorney January 20th, I think it was, because this particular person, his name is Jim Kloberg, opened up a separate bank account, took my reports that I was selling in order to raise funds to run for the campaign, sold them, and asked people, sent a flyer out, and asked people to send the money into him in the name of not Ted Gunderson, but some other constitutional organization. He opened a separate bank account and put that money in the bank account. I wrote a letter to the U.S. Attorney in January. I still haven't received any information about an investigation. Here it is 4 months later. Last week I wrote a letter to the U.S. Attorney there in Las Vegas also again, and I said, what's happened here? And they referred it to the FBI, of course, and the FBI has not come and talked to me yet, 4 months later. We would never let a case of that magnitude or nature slide for 4 months. So there you have a problem there in Las Vegas. Well, based on my intelligence information, they planted this guy, Kloberg, right in the middle of my campaign. He's an FBI plant. That's why they're not investigating. The tune goes on and on and on, right?
Oh, and that's right. They're the whole horticulturist extraordinaire of the world. They love to plant things.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Chip, is there anything more about that you can mention that you haven't mentioned before about CIA assassination? Some of their various illegal activity of the Pegasus group.
Well, I know, having been new with the OSGs and Pegasus groups, I didn't understand how powerful they really were until there was a young man, his name was Al-Jarrah. He was being held in an Italian prison. He was to be deported from that Italian prison and turned over to authorities to provide testimony of some of the things that he was aware of, which included the drugs for guns exchanges and so forth going on in Europe, also involving Mr. North and others. However, I found out how powerful we were and how powerful the drugs that we had, and I found out that there was no bounds. There was nothing that limited us in the OSGs. And this 25-year-old man suddenly, after dose with one of the poisons, died of a heart attack. And was diagnosed as a heart attack.
Yes, and one thing, Chip, that we need to emphasize to our fellow brothers who were in this FBI, CIA, and so forth, is that when they're rid of you, when they don't need your services anymore, your future is very doubtful as to what's going to happen. Be right back, folks. Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. Wake up, America. we are back, and my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA veteran, Black Ops. Chip, we're closing down the first hour, going into the second hour. We might as well dedicate this first hour to the FBI, and in so doing, let's top it off with talking about Buck Revell. You know who Buck Revell is, of course. Buck Revell was one of the top executives in the Bureau. As a matter of fact, he was bank robbery supervisor when I was the number 2 man in the Philadelphia office, and he was liaison with Ollie North, right?
That's what I understand. Yes, I never met Buck. I don't know much about him other than I do understand that was his position. He was the direct liaison to Ollie.
Now, as in a liaison capacity, don't you think that he would have been knowledgeable about what was going on around the world by Mr. Ollie North and his drug operation and arms operation?
Well, Mr. North wasn't the most secretive man in the world, and I'm sure if he had Buck in his confidence, he would have shared quite a bit of it. At that point, with those illegal activities, it was up to Mr. Revell under... Let me see, U.S. Federal Criminal Code, Title 18, Section 4, misprision of a felony to bring those to local law enforcement. Or to a federal judge or to someone.
Right. But you have no knowledge personally about Buck Revell's possible involvement in these activities?
I don't, Ted.
How about over a cup of coffee with your friend? Anything there?
I could have coffee with friends and bring you plenty, I'm sure.
Why don't you do a little checking on that?
I'll do that for you.
Yeah, I'd like to find out more about Buck. Buck is basically a nice guy. I've always enjoyed being around him. He's a very congenial person. And I considered him a friend, and when I heard he was liaison with Ollie North, I became a little upset about that.
Well, you have to understand, too, Ted, that being involved with Mr. North means that effectively you probably have been neutralized in some way. And it's very difficult for certain people to be able to go forward and come forward and say what they need to say for fear of harm to them or their families. Unless he has a good insurance policy protecting them, he needs to just sit where he is.
Well, okay, so be it with Mr. Revell. Any other comments or any other statements you'd like to make about the FBI? This is the FBI hour, folks. By the way, I'd like to comment, folks. I'm writing a letter to the former FBI agents, ex-FBI agents around the country, over 7,000. I need your help, your donations. It's going to cost me about $4,000 to get these letters done. I'm trying to enlighten them, to awake them as to what's going on in America. Many of these men are outstanding investigators, outstanding persons. I was in the Bureau 21 years under J.H. Hoover. These are J.H. Hoover men for the most part, these 7,000 individuals. And so I need your help. Send me a donation, if you will, to Ted Gunderson, Post Office Box 18,000 Day, 259, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89109. Donation in the lower left-hand corner, put FBI project. By the way, we have over $1,700 now toward our $4,000 goal. $1,700. We're going to send the first batch of letters out probably in the next couple of weeks. So we are making some excellent progress. I think it's a good idea, don't you, Chip?
I think it's a great idea, and I think that you folks out there would do well to help support Ted in this. It's not the old hats, the old folks in charge who are the problem here. I think that they're very, very concerned about what goes on, and with the proper communications, they would feel comfortable with coming forward.
Well, we never had not one corruption in the FBI under J.H. Hoover. Not one. We didn't have people spying for Russia. We didn't have these laboratory problems. We had the finest laboratory in the world.